39 days have come and gone since Danny Wuerrfel led the Florida Gators to their first ever national championship. In the early going this year, defense will likely be the engine that drives the Gator train. That is until Doug Johnson gets his feet wet and his arm hot. Steve Spurrier and the Gators, winners of 4 straight SEC titles, begin defense of their first national championship next. And so the defense begins tonight here at Florida Field, where the #1 Florida Gators host the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. And now we know why they call it the Swamp. 90 degrees, heat index of 96. Hi, everybody. I'm Charlie Steiner. This is Todd Christensen. And here at Florida, where it's been fun and gun all these many years, there's a new conductor on the field.
And not too much pressure for him, is there? Doug Johnson, the Tampa Bay Devil Ray third base farmhand, has to take the place of Danny Wuerrfel, who has left with his 39 touchdowns and Heisman Trophy to go to New Orleans. You can see there he has only thrown 27 passes in his career. A lot of pressure on this young man this evening, but they believe that they can run the ball. They have an outstanding tailback in Fred Taylor. You see the guy he averaged 2 years ago as a true freshman. He rushed for nearly 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. The 225-pounder is going to be counted on a lot this evening and throughout the season.
All this fun and gun and fun and run. SMU, USF is really going to have to stop him somehow.
Well, one of the things that they've done a great job of on the road is play defense, and they are led by Patrick Surtain, a preseason All-American pick who tied for 4th in the nation in interceptions with 6 and had 84 tackles. Look for this young man to be man for man on the great Jaquez Green of Florida tonight.
And the third man in our broadcast team tonight, down on the field, Merrill Hodge. Merrill?
The national champion, defending national champs are just moments away from entering the football field, and it is electrifying down here on the field. 85,000 people rocking the Swamp. They are waiting for the 1997 kickoff. We'll be here on the field the entire time, bringing you all the updates. But one of the things, the expectations on this football team, even though there's new faces, there must be SEC champs and national title implications. All these fans want winners now.
So it's the Florida Gators getting ready to rumble with the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles. And we'll have the kickoff from Florida Field coming up next.
Mike Adamle here in our ESPN2 college football studios. We'll be returning to rowdy Gainesville, Florida momentarily, but quickly 2 late afternoon scores to pass along. Pac-10, Washington State, their great quarterback Ryan Leaf hits Chris Jackson 78 yards for the score. The Cougars on top of the Bruins 37-21 in the third quarter. Washington State has won 5 straight home openers. And down in Waco, Texas, number 14 Miami of Florida 31-7 over Baylor. 3 touchdown runs for Edger and James. Right now, let's go down to the Swamp in Gainesville, Florida. Rejoin Charlie Steiner and Todd Christensen. Gentlemen.
We welcome you back to Florida Field in Gainesville, Florida. 90 degrees and a little past 6 o'clock Eastern time. The humidity is 55%. The skies are threatening. The heat index is 96 degrees, and the excitement quotient here at Florida Field is even higher than that. Florida has won the toss, and they will receive with Bo Carroll, a freshman, 5'9", 166. He wears number 2, and Fred Weary, the cornerback, number 24, to stand back and receive.
Charlie, one of the things right away that Steve Spurrier decides to do is that so many teams now, when they win the toss, will defer, and they'll start with their defense. Right away, Steve Spurrier is saying to his young quarterback, Doug Johnson, I like you, and I think that you can take control of this game, and so we're going to go offense first.
The pressure on that kid, number 12, Doug Johnson, is enormous. Kicking off for Southern Mississippi is Tim Hardaway. He's a junior at a junior college transfer. Fred Weary at the 5. He's got some room. And brought down at the 26-yard line by Carr Shannon. And here comes Doug Johnson, and all eyes on him. As Todd mentioned, he has thrown 27 passes in his career. Jaquez Green will be his primary wideout and offensive line. Only 8 deep tonight. 3 of the starters normally are either out for suspension or injury. And so the first play for Doug Johnson as a quarterback, he hands it off to Fred Taylor. And Taylor gains a couple. Defensively for Southern Mississippi, Robert Brown is a exquisite pass rushing defensive end. The linebacker you want to keep an eye on, number 43, Marshawn Kennedy. He is from New Orleans. He is only about 220 pounds, but he is a tough hombre. And Patrick Surtain, with 6 INTs last year, one of the leaders in college football. On 2nd and 8. Oh, there's a lot of running room for Fred Taylor. Down to the 41-yard line of Southern Mississippi, and Jamal Alexander ran him out of bounds, but not before he picks up 31.
One of the things that we were talking about at the top of the contest is Fred Taylor's ability to go outside. 6'1", 225 pounds, and they say legitimate 4.5 speed. Take a look downfield at the block he gets right there. He was able to get him out of the way, even though it wasn't a picture-perfect block. Great job by Travis McGriff to get in the way of the corner and enable Taylor to get some extra yardage.
They mark it at the 42. Johnson throwing long and overthrowing Jaquez Green.
And there's the man right there who was with him stride for stride, Patrick Surtain. This is going to be a great matchup this evening. 2 preseason All-Americans by a number of periodicals. Surtain takes a back seat to no one in terms of defense. You can see Steve Spurrier right there wants to give him some confidence right off the bat, but Surtain has no problem matching up with Green.
2 runs and a long pass, and it's 2nd down and 10 at the Southern Miss 42. And this will be Johnson's first automatic. Johnson forced to scramble. Throwing over the middle, and it is nearly picked off.
That is outstanding secondary coverage, Charlie. When you have that much time to throw, somewhere between 6 and 7 seconds, and you roll out 4 wide receivers, they flooded the zone. Southern Mississippi did an excellent job of manning up and making sure that they couldn't come up with a play off the cuff. Good job by the Southern Miss defense.
Barry Phoenix was in on the play defensively, and he is a Thorpe candidate, one of the outstanding DBs in the country. 3rd and 10 at the 42. Johnson picked off by Patrick Surtain. And Southern Miss with a key turnover.
One of the things that we talked to Steve Spurrier about is to whether or not the people behind Jaquez Green or the other 2 receivers have been able to step up. He was concerned over the fact that Jaquez Green is really the only guy who has established himself. Patrick Surtain obviously has. You can see right here at the end of the play, McGriff does not come back to the ball, and as a result, Surtain steps right in front for the pick. No problem with protection. He's looking at the same man the entire way, and Surtain just steps inside. Outstanding play, back-to-back plays by Surtain, who is showing that he is a big-time cornerback.
He was tied for 4th in the country last year with 6 picks, and that's his first. Lee Roberts, the quarterback for Southern Mississippi. And the handoff is to Harold Shaw, and Shaw's got some running room. But there's a flag on the play.
Frank Firestone, the center for Southern Miss, did a tremendous cut block in the middle of the field to enable him to get to the outside.
Delay of the game on
the offense. They did not get the play off in time. Boy, that's hard to believe when you just come on the field. Boy, that's frustrating because that was a good-looking run.
Their first offensive play of the year took too long to snap. The referee is Steve Shaw. And so it'll be 1st and 15 at the Southern Miss 33. Sherrod Gideon is Robert's favorite wide receiver. He wears number 11, and this time they're going to give it to Shaw again. And Shaw finds a burst off left guard. Let's meet the Southern Mississippi offense anchored by the quarterback, Lee Roberts. Just a one-back offense. Sherrod Gideon, his favorite wideout, Eddie Shaw, who is Harold's brother, is also there. And the Southern Miss offensive line anchored by Casey Keith at 6'5" and 324. Head coach Jeff Bauer. He's 44 years old. He led the Golden Eagles to an 8-3 record last year. And Roberts on the move, throwing over the middle, and it is dropped. Todd Pinkston couldn't hang on to the handle.
It has to be frustrating because he had him wide open. He had plenty of time to make the catch, just couldn't come up with it.
Florida defensively. We will see in a moment. There's Pinkston.
Sometimes you saw he'd take his eye off it. He thought that there were people around him, but there just weren't. As some Fred Biletnikoff once told me a long time ago, you're going to get hit anyway. Catch the ball.
2 minutes into the first quarter. Southern Mississippi, its first possession, 3rd and 6 at their own 41, and they are in the shotgun. Roberts, incomplete. Intended for Gideon, defensed on the play by Fred Weary. It is 4th down.
Charlie, at this point, if you appreciate cornerback play, you have to like both Patrick Surtain and Fred Weary. Fred Weary had 5 interceptions last year, an outstanding corner. Look, he comes up on the press situation right on top of the Southern Miss best receiver with him stride for stride. As soon as he breaks, he knows right where he's going to be. That is outstanding coverage on the part of Weary.
Standing deep is Jaquez Green. And Jamie Purser will punt it away on 4th down and 6 at the 41. Purser averaged 40 yards per punt last year. This isn't a very good one at all. Bounces at the 25, and Green's going to pick it up and advance it to the 20. A 42-yard punt, a 4-yard return, scoreless, just underway.
ESPN2's presentation of college football is brought to you by Keystone Light, America's never bitter beer, and by America Online. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1.
Second series for Florida, beginning at their own 20-yard line. First series, they ran well, and when they started to pass, it came to a grinding halt. Let's see what they do this time. From the 20. That is Fred Taylor again, and Taylor has a first down at the 31. Now, Mike Adamle back in the studio. Mike?
Well, Charlie, elsewhere in the SEC down in Starksville, this game went down to the wire with Memphis and Mississippi State until Brian Hazelwood connects from 53 yards away to give the Bulldogs a 13-10 win.
And back here, we are scoreless. Florida with the second series of plays, and Fred Taylor on 3 carries already has 42 yards. He is a single setback. Terry Jackson in motion. 1st and 10 at the 31. Here's Taylor again. Taylor busts his way to the 35, a pickup of 4.
It's an interesting combination of size and speed. I had mentioned earlier, I had said that he had 4.5 speed. Steve Spurrier told me that he was 4.4. And you say to yourself, come on, 226 pounds can't be. He said, no, legitimately. He ran the 100 meters in high school. This is a young man who's been plagued over the last 2 years with some problems. But he is certainly showing his skills tonight.
Started only twice last year, but he averaged 6 yards per carry and scored 5 touchdowns. He's averaging over 10 yards per carry already. 2nd and 6 at the 35. Whistles blow and flags fly. There's probably some motion. Steve Shaw, the referee.
Dead ball
You
foul.
have to expect some of this in the first game.
On the offense.
Charlie, as you and I watched some of the games today, there seemed to be an awful lot of delay of games, offsides, motions, and that's the byproduct of, frankly, there's just no way to duplicate the speed of a game in practice. You just can't do it.
2nd down and 11 at the 30-yard line. Quarterback Doug Johnson, who grew up in Gainesville watching this team play. And now the dream comes true, and the throw is complete to Jaquez Green, and he is wrestled out of bounds at the 50. A pickup of 19 and a 1st down. Patrick Surtain made the tackle.
Good-looking throw by Johnson. Had plenty of time off of the play action. What he does here is he lofts it in the zone, able to get the ball over Jamal Alexander. Watch to the left of your screen as it just clears them, and Green is able to find the hole. This is a difficult touch pass. Plenty of time. You can see it right there. Alexander just can't quite get up, and he's able to lay the ball in the chest of Jaquez Green for a big gain. Good-looking throw by the sophomore.
Defensive end Robert Brown was an instant too late, and here's Johnson throwing long down the sideline and just overthrowing Jaquez Green at the 10.
He definitely had a step. I don't know about you, Charlie. You know what? It's ridiculous for me to speak for you. I know you feel the same way. This Surtain Green thing looks good. That's going to be fun to watch tonight.
Well, you know, all the pressure in the world is on Jaquez Green, having to fill in not only the shoes of Ike Hilliard and Riddell Anthony, but now he also has to play against this kid Surtain, who had 6 picks last year and 1 already this evening. 2nd and 10 at the 50. And that is the first sack of the night. Recorded.
But Quincy Scott was able to get in there. Up to this point, he's had outstanding coverage, but John Thompson has started to shake some things up with some loops in the middle of the line. Take a look right here. Right there, he's able to get rid of the blocker and get right in the face of Johnson. Excellent pass rush. Take a look right here. Just breaks off and is able to do that. And as you pointed out, not that you want to dwell on this or make any excuses, but you did mention, Charlie, the fact that there are 3 different offensive linemen, and there's defensive coordinator John Thompson doing an excellent job thus far in the first quarter.
3rd and 17. Flag on the play. Over the middle. Incomplete, intended for Travis McGriff, and he was wide open. The pass just behind him, but there is a flag on the play. Let's see what Steve Shaw's got to say for himself. Another false start. That will likely be declined.
There's a case, Charlie. Travis McGriff, 5'8", 180. If he's 5'10", he makes the catch. But, you know, we all suffer from our genetic predispositions.
Illegal motion.
I know.
Penalty is declined. 4th down.
Don't take that personally. I was talking about myself as well.
Easy for you to say at 6'3". 4th and 17 at the 43-yard line.
And a half.
And a half. I forgot the half. Around 5'8" and a quarter.
Got their star receiver Gideon back.
Gerard Gideon standing deep. And the punt by Robbie Stevenson bounces at the 25 and will be down at the 27-yard line. So we're still scoreless. And that comes to a surprise. Says a lot for a lot of people. You get a sense that the folks here, 85,000 of them, are getting a little edgy. They would have thought by now their Gators would be on the way toward a rout. Instead, it is scoreless. And here comes Southern Mississippi with their 2nd series. Harold Shaw, the single setback. Lee Roberts, the quarterback, 1st and 10 at the 27. Shaw gets nothing. And the crowd is edgy because Southern Mississippi, with that turnover, is staying in this game. Here's Merrill Hodge.
You know, Charlie and Todd, they call Southern Miss the giant killers, a term which they do not like, but they're able to upset people like Florida because of clock management. They don't turn the ball over, and they create turnovers. And they already have that first turnover tonight.
Last year, they were 2nd in the nation in giveaway takeaway, plus 14. And already they are plus 1. And 2nd and 11 in the shotgun. Here's Harold Shaw. And Shaw's got some running room across the 30 to the 33-yard line. That is Tony George, the strong safety.
One of the things that Merrill mentioned, which I thought is interesting as a flag is down, is that he said giant killer. Coach Jeff Bowers makes the point that I don't want to hear that. He said, because when you say giant killer, you're making them think we're not as good as the other team. And the thing is that they feel like they came here to win.
That is Bauer, and he's calling for a face mask. Instead, it's offsetting penalty.
Well, that's tough for Southern Miss to start all over again. That was a good-looking run, as you can see right here. Able to cut back against the grain and set up a 3rd and short. He's done an outstanding job at Southern Miss. 8-3 last year, as you mentioned, Charlie. Co-USA championship.
Especially when you consider 7 of their 11 games are on the road.
Outstanding.
And they play at Tennessee and at Alabama before this season is over. Second and 11 at the 26. Incomplete, intended for Shaw. To follow up on that thought, Southern Mississippi has a stronger SEC schedule than a lot of SEC teams.
And the fact that you mentioned because of the limitations that they have having to go on a road, I think it really steals a team like this. And it's clear, obviously there's 8:49 left in the first quarter, but it's obvious that they're not intimidated by the crowd, nor the fact that Florida is the defending national champions. And that's a credit to that man right there.
3rd down and 11 at the 26. Gerard Gideon flanked along with Eddie Shaw, and that is Eddie Shaw in motion at the bottom of your screen. Here's Roberts throwing. The ball is tipped in the interior of the line by Reggie McGrew.
The defensive tackles for Florida are outstanding. Reggie McGrew and Ed Chester are the ones who are able to prevent the penetration by the offensive line, and are both great pass rushers. Take a look in the middle. Limited time. Robert sets right in front of him right there. Number 92, Reggie McGrew, with the big arm up to bat it down.
Jack Gabriel will punt it away, and Jaquez Green standing back at his own 35-yard line. We told you at the top of the telecast that defense would likely be the name of Florida's game early on this season as the new offense got itself acquainted. There's a flag on the play. And so far, the defense certainly has lived up to its end of the bargain. It appears as if Southern Miss took too much time again.
Dead ball foul. Delay on the offense. 4th down.
And so we'll have a do-over. And 4th and 16. Back at the 20. The job Jeff Bauer has done, when you consider the budgetary limitations there at Southern Mississippi. Their budget is roughly what Steve Spurrier's salary is. Fourth and 16. Well, the Golden Eagles are certainly getting their money's worth. Not much of a punt. Fielded and fumbled out of bounds by Jaquez Green at the 49. Tonight at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech travel to Knoxville and battle the number 5 ranked Tennessee Volunteers with you-know-who at the quarterback position. 7:30 on ESPN, the home of college football.
I know who, Zebby Lethbridge. You know, up to this point, Fred Taylor has been the bulk of the offense for the Florida Gators, and I've really been surprised at the number of throws they had put up, particularly the effectiveness of that man. I'm surprised that, you know, Steve Spurrier mentioned the fact that he might be getting 20-25 carries. This is certainly the kind of game where he should.
And this is the first time in 4 years they're employing the shotgun, and they hand it off to Taylor, and he gets nothing. Marchant Kenny. Robert Brown also in on the play.
It appears that Aaron Kinney moved a little bit too soon, the tight end. But Marchant Kenny, boy, he is something. 141 tackles, and as you mentioned, a little bit undersized by middle linebacker standards. But when you can get a guy that can get that many tackles and has a nose for the football, you got to play him at that position. As you mentioned, a Butkus nominee, and very deservedly so.
218 pounds. He plays a lot larger than that. 2nd and 10 at the 49-yard line.
Had a teammate a couple of years ago who came as a 218-pound middle linebacker, you know, Rod Martin, who had a pretty decent career.
What a Super Bowl.
And because sometimes it's not always about size.
3 picks in 82.
81.
81.
Good. That's close.
2nd and 10 at the 49. Right up the gut. Marshawn Kenny is there and meets Fred Taylor.
One of the things that Florida needs to take advantage of is physically they're a little bit bigger than Southern Miss. And instead of some of the fancy plays here, Steve Spurrier decides he wants to go straight ahead off tackle. Puts Taylor in the 2-point stance, and he just follows behind the blocker Jackson. Kenny gets to him, but again, he keeps his legs moving, gets nearly 5 yards. Good-looking run by Taylor.
He'll take a richly deserved blow on 3rd and 5. The quick out is complete to Jaquez Green. He's got the first down inside the 40 to the 38. Terrence Parrish, the cornerback, makes the tackle.
In fairness to Parrish, you have to play off. You had man coverage in that situation by Southern Miss, and a guy like Jaquez Green can beat you deep. Good timing on the part of Johnson to take his 3 steps and just deliver the ball out to the left. Good-looking throw by Johnson, who seems to be getting now, Charlie, a little bit of a rhythm. Steve Spurrier is cognizant of the fact that he needs him to get some confidence, so some of the shorter passes can do just that.
Johnson 2 of 7, 28 yards and a pick. 1st and 10 at the 38. Here's Fred Taylor. He's got a first down or pretty darn close to it. Let's go to Mike Adamle. Mike?
Charlie and Todd, another Florida team in action today. Number 14, Miami, putting the heat on Baylor. Baylor quarterback Tommy Black, stripped of the ball by Nate Webster. Jeff Popovich picks it up and goes the rest of the way to give Miami a 37-14 lead, 38-14 late in the 4th. Guys?
Well, as it turns out, they're about a half a yard short of the first down. Need to get to the 29. And here's Johnson with time, throwing. Nearly picked off by Patrick Surtain. Again, that one-on-one battle between Jaquez Green and Patrick Surtain.
Surtain with him stride for stride. Interesting point with regards to Jaquez Green is that last year, of course, he came on the scene, scored double-digit touchdowns, and everybody talked about he's going to be a superstar. But you know what, Charlie? He had kind of the Scottie Pippen syndrome last year, i.e. with Hilliard and Anthony. He could afford the luxury of slipping between the cracks while the other 2 guys took the bulk of the offense. Now he has to be the go-to guy. It'll be interesting to see if he can do that throughout the season.
3rd and less than 1. Fred Taylor's got a first down to the 25-yard line. He needed a half. He picked up 5. Perry Phoenix, a free safety, made the tackle.
And it could have been a lot more than that. The offensive line just created a chasm there for Taylor. I like the call on 2nd and short. They knew they could get the short yardage. Take a look at the hole here. And at the end of the play, Perry Phoenix right here, boy, he is courageous. He sticks his nose right up in there. That 226-pounder with all that momentum, and he drops him. First down for Florida, but a good-looking play by Phoenix.
And Florida with his real first sustained drive at 25. Johnson with time. Wide open. Jamie Richardson. Touchdown, Florida. Well, you think Doug Johnson is breathing a little easier?
I was thinking, you know what, Charlie, I was trying to think to myself the last time that there's been that kind of pressure, and the one that came to mind is the tailback that took the place of Herschel Walker. Is arguably the same kind of situation that he has here. But that was a great touch. Put it right on the money. Short corner pattern route by Richardson. It appears that Southern Miss had a breakdown in the secondary because he was way too open.
Collins Cooper. He was 7 of 9 in point after tries last year. It is 7-0 Florida. And when we come back, we'll see if Southern Mississippi can get on the board. Well, Southern Mississippi put up a game battle early here in the first quarter, and it looked like Florida, after a couple of series, began to assert its will. Now let's see if Golden Eagles can, in fact, rebound. There's some running room down the sideline. Finally run out of bounds. Eric Booth at the 30-yard line.
Left return, an outstanding job by the wedge of Southern Mississippi. The only thing that I don't understand is why Booth didn't cut back to the middle. Take on the kicker. Don't use the sideline against you, because if he cuts back against the kicker, a guy's not used to this. Now we get a chance to take a look at the touchdown. And the definitive moment right here is by strong safety Jamal Alexander. Right here, if you stop it right here, is he supposed to be in the flat, or is he supposed to be back to the deep corner? Whatever happens, there isn't anybody back to the deep corner, and the result is the nice corner pattern by Jamie Richardson. Surtain just a little bit too late. Touchdown Gators.
Off the 55-yard kick return, here's Lee Roberts throwing. And it's incomplete, intended for Gideon. There's a flag on the play. It will be interference against the left corner, Tyrone Baker. Here's the kickoff return.
Take a look at the blocks up front. Now Booth busts through, and the last guy that has a shot him is the kicker. And he needs to cut back against the grain right here. That's a great play by number 44, Killingsworth. But the point is that Booth needed to cut back against the grain, see if he can break the tackle, but he was able to do that and went out of bounds. I really think that possibly he could have gone the distance, Charlie, if he's willing to take him on.
And that has been the rap against Booth. You know, that's one of the reasons why he may be the best pure runner that Southern Mississippi has. But they say that he just doesn't like to get hit much. Doesn't like to block and doesn't like to get hit.
And nobody likes to get hit, but it's part of the game. I'm sure he knew that a long time ago. Nonetheless, that's a good-looking return.
Meanwhile, Florida's going to call a timeout. Steve Spurrier doesn't like what he sees. Southern Mississippi said they weren't going to roll over, and they have not. Let's go to Mike Adamle. Mike?
Charlie, a pair of games to update you on. First out west in the Palouse, UCLA trailing Washington State. Skip Hicks took over his fourth touchdown of the day. He has 175 yards rushing. Bruins, however, trail by 3. And in Fort Collins, Colorado State very optimistic about their chances this year. Here's why. What a passing duo they have. Moses Moreno, 40 yards to Jeff Turner. Colorado State up early.
Charlie, last year I had a game, Colorado State in Colorado, and Colorado State really held their own with them. And the reason for that is Moses Moreno. He is a big-time quarterback, and that's one of the reasons why the Colorado State Rams are favored in the WAC.
Meanwhile, Southern Mississippi holding their own here against Florida. Gators are up 7-0, but the Golden Eagles have the ball. 1st and 10 at the Florida 23. And as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, early on this season, Florida's expecting its defense to be very much a part of this entire unit.
Definitely a basketball timeout, trying to stymie the momentum of Southern Miss by Steve Spurrier.
Harold Shaw up the gut for maybe a couple of yards, and boy, he is just manhandled by the middle of the line. Chester and McGrew and Rogers and Beauchamp.
Larry Keck, the new offensive coordinator for Southern Miss. There's some pressure on him right now to take advantage of the big kickoff return and the penalty. He's had some struggles between the tackles. These next two plays are going to say a lot about Southern Miss because I think, Charlie, they've got to try something they haven't shown in their bag thus far.
And they run exclusively with a single setback. This time, Roberts from the shotgun. With a quick pass, it is complete. Inside the 20, down to the 16 to Eddie Shaw.
That play would have gone the distance, except Johnny Rutledge was not fooled by the play action. Johnny Rutledge, the linebacker on the other side, is able to come all the way across. Otherwise, Eddie Shaw had a phalanx of blockers in front of him. Take a look right here. He's on the other side of the field. He spies it. Watch him run completely across the other side and make the tackle. Otherwise, you can see all the white shirts were in front to escort him into the end zone. Great play by Rutledge. Another breakfast nominee.
There are a lot of great defensive players up for all sorts of awards this year here at Florida. 3rd and 3. Pitch out. Harold Shaw. And did he make the first down? If he did, it wasn't by much. Looks like he did.
The very thing that we had just talked about, Charlie, they needed to come up with 2 plays that they had not done before, and that's exactly what they did. They had the under-flanker screen, then they come with the option. They had not run the option the entire time, and they get the first down inside the 13-yard line. Great job by Larry Keck, being very creative once they're in the red zone.
And so it is indeed a first down. Larry Keck, the offensive coordinator at Southern Mississippi. This is his 4th school in as many years. Hopes he has finally settled himself down. He has settled this Southern Mississippi offense down. Roberts, timing pattern toward the end zone. Sherrod Gideon overthrown and incomplete.
And who's on the coverage? Fred Weary. This is another great matchup. Gideon set freshman records for Southern Miss last year with catches and yards, 33 catches for 500 yards. Take a look at Fred Weary. Bumps to the outside and looks right at his eyes and doesn't look until he looks. That's exactly how it's taught, and that's one of the reasons why Fred Weary has a chance to play on Sunday.
2nd down and 10 at the Florida 13.
Gideon has no beat.
Harold Shaw gets nothing. He loses 3. Keith Kelsey, the linebacker, makes the tackle.
Well, he went on a stunt, and the guard was not able to get in front of him. It's just as a general rule, linebackers are faster than guards, and you're going to see he's going to shoot the gap right here. Guard tries to cut him off. It's not going to happen. Excellent job.
Kelsey coming off knee surgery. Just prior to spring practice, he is back about 100% now. 3rd down and 13. Roberts to throw. Firing, completing to Gideon, and Gideon is wrestled down at the 13-yard line. Is it a fumble?
They say it is.
Yes, it is. And it's Tony George with the recovery. Stolen away.
I believe George was also the guy that strips the ball. A little inexperience on the part of Gideon. You have to know if you catch the ball at the 13-yard line, your chances are not good to get into the end zone because it's 3rd and very long. He's trying desperately to make something happen, and the result is he gets stripped. Gideon runs what's called the swirl route. He comes in and then goes back out, makes the catch. Now, right at this point, he needs to just fall down. But take a look right there, the strip by Tony George and the recovery. It's a big-time play.
Also in on the play, the linebacker again, Keith Kelsey. And so it is 1st down and 10, Florida at their own 14, and that's Green in motion. And Taylor getting nothing at all. Marshawn Kennedy, the senior linebacker from New Orleans.
Kenny shoots the gap, and this is a great job by Southern Miss because they really need to hold them here. They can't give Florida back the momentum that they just lost as a result of the turnover. You're the one that pointed it out. They were always ahead in turnover margin, but they just gave one back. They need to do their best to force Florida 3 and out.
2nd down and 11. Fred Taylor again. And Taylor across the 15 to about the 17. That was Larry Watts, number 13. Normally the nickelback making the tackle. And the wind is really beginning to blow. The sky is very gray, and it has begun to rain. So we may see some patented Florida thunderstorms here. You can feel it coming on.
That's going to test Steve Spurrier on this particular call. Wind and the young quarterback. He's still going to throw.
7. And down he goes. And that was Latrell Pollard.
One of the things that's going to happen is that when you're man for man, Fred Taylor is a tailback, and tailbacks do not block that much. You're going to see right here, he's got to come up and take him man for man. He's not able to do it. Pollard just runs over the top of Fred Taylor, able to sack Johnson. And you know what, Charlie, if you're the 20 to 25 carry guy, you rarely have to block. And certainly the inexperience of blocking showed there for Taylor as Pollard ran right through.
Sherrod Gideon standing deep at his own 45-yard line with Robbie Stevenson punting it away. It's a low punt. Bounces at the 45. Fielded by Gideon at the 50. And he gets it down to about the 41-yard line of the Florida Gators. ESPN brings you live coverage tomorrow at 1 Eastern. This year's Mountain Dew Southern 500. Defending champion Jeff Gordon will try to extend his point lead over Mark Martin and Dale Jarrett as they tackle Darlington tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN.
Well, Southern Miss did exactly as we said, 3 and out, and not only 3 and out, terrific field position now at the 41. Now the onus goes back to the Florida defense.
Defensive coordinator John Thompson of the Golden Eagles. Here's now USM at the 41. Roberts is stripped, and it is recovered by Harold Shaw on a big defensive play by Willie Cohen's number 55.
I'm not sure that his arm wasn't going forward, Charlie. It appeared, take a look at his right arm if his right arm is going forward, if this shouldn't have been incomplete. There's the arm. Yeah, that arm was going forward. That should have been an incomplete pass, but fortunately for Southern Miss, they're able to recover even with the loss.
Of 5, 2nd and 15 at the Florida 46. The rain is beginning to fall. The wind is really whipping around now. Boulware is now the single setback. Roberts back to throw. And it is complete to Gideon. And Gideon is upended at the 37-yard line. And we've had a nice first quarter. The Florida Gators leading it 7-0. And it's raining in the swamp. An early evening thunder shower here at Florida Field. 3rd and 6 at the 37. And here is Shaw. Shaw's got some running room inside the 15-yard line. And Mike Harris makes a touchdown saving tackle.
Shaw ends up making the big play, but Lee Roberts is the one that gets this started. With Florida people in his face, watch here the sidearm delivery to get Shaw the ball. People right in his face. Look at this. Look at the sidearm right here. He's about to get whacked. Almost underhand. A little Ted Abernathy action or Dan Quisenberry. And the result is that Shaw is able to cut back inside. Great downfield blocking down to the 14-yard line. Larry Keck pulling out all the stops at this point.
I want you to do that sidearm pass in a hurry. 1st and 10 at the 14. Southern Mississippi just won't go away. The handoff is to Tyrone Boulware. One of the fun jobs in covering college football as a sideline reporter, especially in weather like this, right, Merrill?
Guys, the weather's changed just a little bit. We're getting rain and the wind, but I've never been in a swamp where you didn't have a little bit of water, right?
Hey, wait. Tell him we'll do the funny lines around here, huh?
Okay. Like Mary Poppins. 2nd down and 6 at the 10-yard line. Southern Mississippi, a 28-point underdog coming into this game. Boulware, the single setback, 2nd and 6. Tip and nearly picked by Tico Brown.
Let me tell you, that's a great effort on the part of Sherrod Gideon to make sure that Brown doesn't get the ball. The ball gets tipped in the interior, and then Gideon turns into the defender to make sure that Brown cannot make the pick. Watch the middle, you're going to see it. 3-step drop. The ball is tipped right there. It appears by Rutledge. Now watch at the end of the play. You can see Brown has an eye for it, and Gideon says no. He's going to jump in the middle of it. Good effort on the part of Gideon, even though it appeared that Brown might not have been able to come up with it.
And so now 3rd down and 6 at the 10-yard line. Roberts, pump fake, throwing toward the end zone, and it is intercepted by Tico Brown.
That's a complete miscommunication on the part of Roberts and Pinkston. I think that he believed that he had the corner post option, and Pinkston goes to the post. Instead, you can see that Roberts is thinking corner all the way, and he ends up leading the defender. You can see the frustration on part of the quarterback. Look at that. He double pumps. Now he throws to the corner, and the only one that's there is the defender. Pinkston is running to the post, and the result is an easy interception for Tico Brown.
And so here comes Florida, having sidestepped a fairly healthy piece of shrapnel.
And you got to figure that Southern Miss needed to win the game of turnovers coming into this game. They can't be down 2-1 against a team as explosive as Florida.
And a timeout is called by Florida, the 2nd of the first half. 13 minutes, 38 seconds to go. And the Gators lead by 7, and they've got 1 timeout left here in the first half.
ESPN2's presentation of college football is brought to you by Nissan, who reminds you that life's a journey. Enjoy the ride.
As the rain continues to fall here at Florida Field, it's 7-0 Florida. And it's 1st and 10 at their own 20. Green, McGriff, and Richardson are the wide receivers. Johnson throwing, and it is incomplete, intended for Jaquez Green.
Take a look closely at the quarterback. In his indecision here with regards to Lee Roberts. There's a pump fake. Now watch, there's another hesitation right there. Right there, that hesitation indicated he was supposed to go to the corner, and he did not, and he throws it up anyway. And as we pointed out, an easy interception for Brown. Got to be frustrating for Roberts, and he's over there talking to him now. He and Pinkston need to be on the same page, particularly in the red zone.
And they have little margin for error against Florida. And on the screen pass, Terry Jackson is wide open. And Jackson across the 35 and brought down at the 37-yard line by Adelius Thomas.
When you're the fullback, you got to take advantage of your opportunities. You're not going to get the ball that much, and when you do, you want to make the most of it. Terry Jackson was somebody who last year played some tailback and did a nice job. See right there, shows some nice hands, cuts to the outside, has a little burst of speed. That's actually a great job running him down from behind by Adelius Thomas, showing some good speed for a defensive lineman.
Not before he picked up 18. Here's Johnson, quick toss. Jaquez Green run out of bounds at the 44-yard line. A pickup of 7, 2nd and 3. Deshaun Mollard made the tackle.
That now makes Johnson 5 for 12, which the numbers may not be that impressive, but considering the rain and the fact that the Southern Miss defense is, I think, better than a lot of people realize, I have to say the young man's doing a good job.
After the slow start, Johnson seeming to find his rhythm. 2nd and 4. This is Jackson. Jackson is manhandled at the 46 and manages to leap forward to nearly the 49. Latrell Pollard made the tackle. Pollard, 21. Interesting sort. In his spare time at home, he works in a funeral home.
As a mortician?
That's what generally one does in a funeral home.
Interesting here. Timeout for a measurement. I would think that Steve Spurrier might want to take a chance here. 3rd and very short. He might want to take the opportunity to go up top. Play action play would be a complete surprise.
So we're going to get a measurement here. And the second effort by Jackson makes it as close as it is. But he's got it.
Well, so much for my theory on play action.
And that would be the 8th first down of the first half. By comparison, Southern Miss has 1. And yet it's still 7-0.
That shows how well the defense of Southern Miss is playing.
1st and 10 at the 48 of Florida. Here's Johnson. Rolling, stopping, and sacked all the way back at the 39-yard line. Now, an update from Mike Adamle. Michael.
Well, Charlie, in the Big 12 today, Darren Davis taking over for his brother Troy, but it's been the passing game for the Cyclones that has taken center stage. Todd Banhausen, 80 yards to Ed Williams, and the Cyclones leading early in the first.
Meanwhile, here at the rainy swamp, colorful rainy swamp, there are more orange parkas here than anything else, and there was a penalty on the play.
Charlie, there was a flag down. Evidently, it was a face mask on the sack, and boy, that's got to be frustrating for Southern Miss.
On the defense,
that was one of those that
from the previous spot, 1st down.
Apparently defensive holding.
But I was about to say, that was one of those that falls into the heading of the proverbial cover sack.
Well, he was holding his face mask is what he was doing.
Yeah. And so that's frustrating. You can see the Coach Bauer feeling that way. He shook his head and just didn't understand. Boy, they had a great defensive play, great coverage, but slip of the hand cost them. As
tough as the Eagles have been playing Florida, they're still making too many mistakes. And they're going to have to play a near flawless game to beat this Gator squad. 1st and 10 at the 42 of the Golden Eagles. Johnson in the shotgun. First time in 4 years Florida employing the shotgun. And Johnson is in a heap of trouble, but there's a flag on the play. Looks like somebody from Southern Mississippi may have jumped the gun. May have been Mr. Pollard.
appeared to me that the tight end might have moved a little bit quick.
False start on the offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Now remember, 3 of the regular starters of the offensive line from Florida not here tonight. 2 suspended, 1 injured. All the suspensions return next week. A variety of infractions, everything from DWI to playing a CD player too loud. 1st and 15 at the 47-yard line. Handoff. Fred Taylor, good second effort, gets him inside the 45. Marshant Kinney in on the tackle along with Jamal Alexander.
Fred Taylor now has 11 carries, well on his way to get those 20 to 25 that Coach Spurrier had mentioned that he might get. 11 carries for 69 yards. He also had mentioned offhandedly that he could be in for some postseason awards, maybe even the Heisman. And Fred Taylor's response to that was, oh yeah, he's Don King. He's over-promoted.
The difference between Don King and Spurrier, Don's hair goes north and south, and Spurrier's goes east and west. Well, underneath the hat, it goes east and west with a nice part.
Southern Miss on that last play went with a blitz. They came with 6 because they trust their corners to go man for man. Johnson did not have the time. Threw the ball a little bit short.
3rd down and 13 at the 45-yard line as the rain continues to fall. The rain isn't so much the problem as the gusty wind. It is blowing in all sorts of directions at the moment. That's not going to stop Johnson with the bullet pass, and it is complete to the tight end, Aaron Kinney. With that pass, Kinney has caught 1/3 of his total number of passes last year.
Every offensive coordinator I talked to, Charlie, without exception, says the same thing. At the end of the year, the tight end has single-digit catches, and if he returns, they say, but we're going to get him more involved in the offense. Yeah, sure.
Well, he's
okay, all right.
On a pace.
I get it. Okay. This is going to be very interesting here. They certainly have trust in the defense. Charlie, you're the one that said that the strength of Florida's team, at least at this point, is their defense. Well, they're putting a lot of trust in them right here, going for it on 4th and nearly 8.
And not out of the shotgun either. Jackson and Taylor in the backfield. Johnson back to throw, has some time, fires, and it is complete to Jamie Richardson. Down at the 22-yard line, and a first down, a pickup of 18.
Deep route, an excellent route on the part of Richardson to run the deep out. And Charlie, this is not an easy throw. From the pocket, he has to throw across his body and throw the deep out. And Richardson coming back, that's a tough catch. It was a little bit behind him, but he opts for the jump to make sure that he cradles it. He decides that he doesn't want to try and make a catch and run. Courageous call on the part of Steve Spurrier, and a nice throw by Johnson.
And so Mr. Johnson is held up to the pressure that has been placed upon his shoulders around the country on this first half of his career as a starter at Florida. 1st and 10 at 22, and he's calling an automatic. Instead, he's going to call a timeout. Doesn't like what he sees, and Florida's run out of timeouts with 9.5 minutes to go in the first half. Florida with the ball and the lead when we come back to rainy, windy Florida Field.
Florida's last time out was in fault of Steve Spurrier. Steve Spurrier calls a lot of the plays from the sideline, but he's actually trying to get a hold of Doug Johnson on the sideline and trying to audible. But the relay wasn't working that well, so Doug Johnson had to call a timeout, the sideline, and regroup.
And the Gators are flat out of timeouts. 9.5 to go in the first half, leading 7-0. It is 1st and 10 at the Southern Miss 23. Johnson, oh, there's a fumble, and it's still loose. It is still loose, and it is finally recovered, I think, by Doug Johnson.
Now, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Perry Phoenix was able to pull away from him. He was not. And you know why, don't you, Charlie? Because he's a third baseman for the Tampa Bay Devil Ray minor leaguer. He's got the great hands. He's able to come up with it. The ball obviously is wet. You can see Jackson was unable to hold on to it. Watch the first time. He's by himself. This should be an easy recovery right there. There's the strip. Excellent job on the part of John Nix. Now he fumbles right here. Corral it with your body. You can see Perry Phoenix dives in there, and he's willing to take it away from him. But right there, the referee steps up and says, no, the Florida man there was first. And I think that he's a little bit frustrated because, Charlie, I really think there at the end he did pull it away from him.
Johnson also had to make a second effort to retain the possession. Second down and 19 to go. Back at the 29-yard line. And so that big pass to Richardson. Now they're going backwards. And the sack recorded by Ty Trahan, reserve outside linebacker. Now, Trahan's an interesting story. Last year, he was a quarterback. Goes from quarterback to linebacker, and it pays off. Third sack by Southern Mississippi.
Take a look at the two running backs right here. They can't decide who's going to block Trahan. And it turns out that neither of them do. They're both right here. Here comes the blitz. Nah, I don't want him. No, I don't want him either. And so he's right in the face of the quarterback. That's what Jerry Kramer referred to as the lookout block. Look out, quarterback, because neither of them wanted any piece, evidently, of Trahan.
This all began back at the 22, and Florida's going backwards. But now here's Johnson throwing down the sideline. Incomplete, intended for the tight end, Aaron Kinney.
Good adjustment there by Terrence Parrish. The inside receiver was trying to take him away so he wouldn't be in the passing lane, and Parrish was able to come off of him at the last minute and bat the pass away. That's a heads-up play by number 24. To the left of your screen, they run the wide receiver up the lane trying to get Parrish away from him. But you can see Parrish now is going to come off him. There he sees right there. He comes off him at the last. Ooh, man.
Catchable.
Maybe that was catchable. Oh, he's a tight end. I'm not going to block him.
It is fourth down and 26 yards to go. All the way back now at the 38 with 7 minutes and 34 seconds to go in the first half. And Florida is leading only by 7-0. And now they're going to punt it away.
Now, here's an interesting theory. I chatted with Sean Landetta once, the former punter of the Giants and the Rams. And he said that when they get in that situation, they just take the 5-yard penalty. He says, this doesn't make any sense. He says, it's like basketball. Do you think I can shoot a 12-footer better or a 17-footer better? He always wanted it shorter because he could angle it better. He never understood why people do that, and that's what Florida just did. Took the 5 yards. We'll see what happens.
And so Robbie Stevenson will punt it away, and Sherrod Gideon is going to let it bounce into the end zone. So it'll be a touchback, and Southern Mississippi still hanging tough with 7.5 to go in the first half. ESPN starts your college football weekend off early on Thursday at 8 Eastern when Terry Bowden leads the Auburn Tigers into the ACC to take on the Virginia Cavaliers. All the action brought to you by ESPN, your home of college football. And the Golden Eagles of Southern Mississippi are not here at Florida merely to be Gator bait. They are playing the defending champion Gators rock solid here in the first half. 7-0, 7:25 to go in the first half. And this is Harold Shaw. And Shaw with a bruising run to the 30-yard line. Here's Mike Adamle.
Well, Charlie and Todd, some high drama out in the Palouse. UCLA trying to take the lead from Washington State. Cade McNown to Jermaine Lewis. It looks like he fumbled the ball, but the referee said down at the 1, 4th and goal. Aaron Roke stuffed by Leon Bender. Cougars lead by 3 with a minute to play.
That's an exciting game. You know, it was interesting. We were talking about why would Keith Jackson go back there. Well, first of all, it's his alma mater. And, of course, after all these years, he's prescient. He knew this was going to be a great game.
Clock running, less than 7 to go in the first half.
Oh, what a hit.
And boy, was he ever leveled. Dwayne Thomas with a mammoth hit.
When the runner goes backwards, that's the indication. Booth right there. That is textbook right there. That's exactly how you're taught. Take a look. Skates to the outside. Thomas right there with the head right in the chest. That's exactly how it's taught. And I'm surprised that Dwayne Thomas didn't play a little running back, but evidently he opted to play linebacker. Okay,
it is better to give than it is to receive in this case.
I was just thinking there was a pretty good Dwayne Thomas.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, well, okay.
A radical in his day.
Well, that was a radical hit.
Yes, it was. Extreme. 2nd and 10 at the 31 after Booth regains his senses. Lee Roberts is in the shotgun. Roberts with a screen pass developing. And some running room for Eddie Shaw, shy of the first down by maybe 3 out to the 38-yard line.
Good play. If Eddie Shaw maybe could have cut back to the middle. The receivers who were running the up routes had the free safety deep. Good call again by Larry Keck, but he cuts back against the grain and goes down. Now they have a very makeable 3rd and short. But I think maybe if he could have just stayed to the inside, he might have got the first down.
And so it is 3rd down and healthy 3 yards to go. Southern Miss at their own 38-yard line with the clock running. And this game is a whole lot closer than a lot of people figured it would be. Roberts with time, firing over the middle, and it is complete. Inside the 50, down to the 48-yard line. Eddie Shaw again with the reception.
Eddie Shaw has been a key player in the first half. See right here, good protection. Roberts sets up and just drills the hook pattern. Escapes one tackler and gets downfield. You know what? Good play by Shaw. But I like the way Roberts hung in the pocket after all the pass rush that has been in his face and drilled that ball. That was a big-time throw.
3 catches, 27 yards, a pickup of 15 on that play. 1st and 10, Southern Mississippi in Florida territory. At the 47, handoff to Eric Booth.
You know what, Southern Miss, we talk about Florida and the success that they've had here at the Swamp. They're 41-2, 25-1 in openers in Gainesville. That's astonishing. But Southern Miss is not lacking either. 8-1 in the last 9 seasons in openers. And Charlie, something else, 3-0 in August.
And the last time they played here at Florida, Florida beat them, but Southern Mississippi is right there to the bitter end. 2nd and 2. Right up the gut, Harold Shaw, he's got the first down. At the 35-yard line, getting off the pile is Dwayne Thomas and Johnny Rutledge, the linebackers.
Charlie, one of the things here with regards to Southern Miss, let's not forget, the score is 7-0, but Southern Miss's 2 turnovers came inside the 20. So even with one of those turnovers gone, very different game.
Meanwhile, Golden Eagles are on the march. And here's Roberts to throw toward the corner, and it is nearly picked off again by Tico Brown.
Tico Brown last year had a severe leg injury, and he was able to come back in time to play in the Sugar Bowl, but he only played in 4 games last year. He wants everyone to know that he has not lost a thing. He came from deep center field to make this play. It appeared that they had a chance, but look at Brown play center field, lay out with Tico Brown with no regard for his body. Great effort here by number 33. Cuts his own man, but that's a fearless free safety. Big play.
Brown had made 11 straight starts till he blew out the knee last year. He is back and accounted for. Roberts pass complete to Harold Shaw. He runs over one runner and a couple of more as he gets inside the 30 to about the 29-yard line. Tony George finally made the tackle. A pickup of a bruising 6.
Charlie, we've been very complimentary of Fred Weary, and deservedly so. But he's got to take the bruises here because he came up and tried to go head first into Harold Shaw, and he paid for it. Boy, Shaw kept his legs moving and just ran right over the top of him.
3rd down and 3 at the 29-yard line. Between the 28 and 29, they've got to get about the 25. So this is a big defensive stand for the Florida Gators. Roberts with a world of time. Firing in and out, and it's intercepted. Fred Weary. Weary turns around and comes back with the pick. And that is the 3rd Southern Mississippi turnover tonight. Flag on the play. Personal foul against Southern Mississippi, adding insult to injury.
Well, to use the proverb, if Southern Miss doesn't have bad luck, they have no luck at all. Doing what they have to do on the drive, and instead of, how many times have you watched when the ball pops up?
Red ball foul, personal foul on the right, 15 yards, first down.
How many times do you see the ball pop out of somebody's hands and just drop? or drop a little ways. The pass protection is outstanding. Gideon is wide open, and there you can see Shaw's wide open in the flat. The ball's a little bit behind it, but instead of the ball just dropping, it pops up in the air. A softball for Weary. Take a look at Shaw right here in the flat. He's going to be wide open because nobody has him in coverage, but he's looking downfield. He decides he wants to go there on the swirl route, but Gideon can't quite come up with it.
From the 50 out of the shotgun, Jacquez Green. Green inside the 40 to the 37-yard line. Marshawn Kinney made the tackle, a pickup of 12 and a first down for Florida.
And Steve Spurrier wants to go right for the jugular. Instead of just going off tackle or going with the standard play, he goes with the screen to his wide receiver, giving him an opportunity to run upfield and make a big play. He wants to catch Southern Miss on his heels right now, on their heels right now.
Trips off to the right side. Green, Richardson, and McGriff. Jackson and Taylor in the backfield behind Johnson. Florida's got all the first downs and only a 7-0 lead. And the pass is complete. Jacquez Green inside the 30 to the 27, and that's a first down.
Jacquez Green, with his great speed, is able to push the defender up the field. We talked earlier about the throws and the hooks, but Jacquez Green forces people to do things that they don't want to do up the field. As a result, he pushes him deep and comes back to the ball.
Trips now to the left side. First down and 10. Florida on the move at the 27 of Southern Mississippi. 2 minutes, 20 seconds to go, first half. Here's Johnson from the shotgun. Firing to Green again. Green to the 17-yard line. About a yard shy of the first.
Same play to the other side of the field, and Jacquez Green, we mentioned at the top of the show, is he able to be the go-to guy? Is that somebody that's going to be able to come up with it? At this point, Charlie, he has 6 catches for 65 yards. I'd say those are pretty good numbers, and the half isn't even over yet.
He came in the same recruiting class with Riddell Anthony and Ike Hilliard, and sat patiently behind as they took the spotlight. Now it is all on Green. He seems to be loving it. Trips to the right, 2nd and 1. Johnson, pump fake, throwing toward the end zone. Green got it! We're seeing a first-half highlight film from Jacquez Green.
And the reason for that is the confidence that Doug Johnson has is immense. Take a look right here. Wide open in the flat, but Johnson says, no, I'm willing to throw the jump ball. Deshaun Mallard is in pretty good coverage, and here's the jump ball. And you don't anticipate the man who is 5'9", 165 to go up and get it, but that's exactly what Jacquez Green did. He went up and took it away from the defender.
4-play drive, all 4 to Green, 49 yards. 13-0. Make it 14-0. Jacquez Green has averaged 17 yards every time he's touched the ball in his college career. Jacquez Green is rapidly becoming Doug Johnson's best friend.
It really is, Charlie, and the reason here is that I mentioned Jamie Richardson is wide open in the flat, but Doug Johnson has just decided it's a little hook and go. Right here, there's nobody with him. He can catch the ball, maybe get into the end zone, but instead he says, you know what, Jacquez Green, he's the man. I'm going to give it up to him and see if he can make the play, and that's exactly what he does.
And he's got a 3.5-foot vertical leap. He's little Jacquez Green. He plays a lot larger than his 5'8". Here's Booth. Flag on the play. Booth is able to turn the corner. Booth is run out of bounds at the 31, but a flag back at the 17-yard line. Ronnie Battle made the tackle. Special teamer for the Gators.
Now, Charlie, as they decide this is going to come back against Southern Miss, they had a holding. If you're Southern Miss, do you go in down 14-0 and say, okay, you know, just run out the clock. We're okay. We're going to get the ball to start the second half, or do you, starting somewhere on the 10-yard line, attempt to get a drive going?
Return, we have an illegal block in the back on the white team, half the distance to the goal, first down. Frustrating because Keith Booth, you can see Jeff Bauer doesn't agree. Watch the right of your screen right here. Going to get blocked in the back. It appears that's number 85 reserve tight end Tamira Nolan. The reason I ask that, Charlie, is that sometimes people think it's a lack of courage, but discretion sometimes is the better part of valor. I think that Southern Miss here should run the clock out because they're going to get the ball to start the second half. They're only down 2 touchdowns.
Well, they're all the way back at their 9. They're going to play it conservative and give it to Tyrone Boulware, who gets out to the 16-yard line. So quite an impressive scoring drive for the Florida Gators, thanks to Jaquez Green. 4 plays, 49 yards at $126. Green, what an amazing stat. Every time he has touched the ball in his college career, has gained an average of 17 yards. And he is now clearly the man at Florida Field, especially with the departure of Messrs. Anthony and Hilliard and Wuerrfel. 2nd down and 6 at the 15. Make it 2nd and 4. And not a lot to report. Coming up at the half, the National Car Rental Halftime Report. Host Mike Adamle will have all the day's scores and highlights. Don't you go far. Clock is running down, 20 seconds and counting. Let's see if
now this is a
Southern
good
Mississippi's even going to bother to break the huddle.
It's a good decision, Charlie. It's a good decision. You're away from home. You're only down 2 touchdowns. And the other thing that you need to talk about is the fact that, hey, you know what? If we can just hold on to the ball, 3 turnovers all in scoring situations, it's got to be frustrating. They're still in this game.
Southern Mississippi is left to think what might have been. And Florida leads at the half by 2 touchdowns. Merrill Hodge and Steve Spurrier. Merrill.
Little oh, we're to be ahead of Southern Miss, playing hard, playing a lot of mistakes here and there. From them, but they're a good team. They've come to
Folks,
fight.
I think you got to get your televisions adjusted. No, actually, we obviously had some technical difficulties, but not so Florida, leading 14-0 at the half. Now, let's go to our halftime studios and Mike Adamle. Michael.
Okay, thank you very much, Charlie and Todd. A good game going down in Gainesville, and coming up on the National Car Rental Report at halftime, the college football season is now in full swing. We have scores and highlights, including the thriller at the Carrier Dome between North Carolina State and Syracuse, plus a family feud in West Virginia. That's all coming up. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike Adamle. Welcome back to our ESPN2 College Football Studios and the National Car Rental Halftime Report. Number 16, Syracuse, riding high after last week's win in the Kickoff Classic against Wisconsin, going against win number 2 against lowly North Carolina State. Guess again, 4th quarter game tied at 17. NC State trying to put it away from Syracuse's dangerous Quentin Spotwood. They didn't do it, and guess what? Spotwood made him pay. Heading up the right sideline, in all, 72 yards of real estate covered. Syracuse led 24-17 after the extra point. Later in the quarter, Wolfpack still down by 7. 3rd down and 9. Jamie Barnett, who had a great game as quarterback for the Wolfpack. Tight end Mark Thomas, all alone in the end zone, 9-yard score, game tied at 24. Less than 1:30 to go in regulation. 2nd and 21. Donovan McNabb airs it out and finds Spotwood in traffic. And watch this catch, 52 yards in all. That set up a 3rd and goal with just 30 seconds left. McNabb hands off to D. Brown. He stepped to the goal line. North Carolina State thinks they've got it. Do they? Did Brown lose the ball before he was down? Check out the replay coming up here. Brown stripped by Tony Scott right there. The ball comes loose. NC State recovers. We're going to OT. Now, after Syracuse scored to make it 31-24, Barnett gets back in action for North Carolina State to Tremaine Stevens to bring the Wolfpack within 1. Mike O'Kane and the Wolfpack are going for 2. Paul Pasqualoni, their defense wasn't ready. He tried to call a timeout, couldn't get it, and Barnett finds an open Torrey hole to the end zone. The upset so far of this young season, Wolfpack win it 32-31. Donovan McNabb and company stunned for the 2nd time in 2 years. Remember, in week 2 a year ago, Syracuse lost to Minnesota. Syracuse has never beaten North Carolina State. Elsewhere, Marshall and West Virginia, the family feud. This man, Randy Moss, mouthing off early on. He had a tough day. Amos Zeroe running around the left side for West Virginia and going the distance. The fine running back for the Mountaineers, 51 yards and all, up 14-3. Randy Moss only 2 catches for 25 yards in the first half, but he got untracked in the second stand. Chad Pennington up top. Great catch, my Moss. That's why the pro scouts are salivating over his talent. Marshall would make it 31-28 and actually lead, but Mark Bulger hits Chad Wabel, and he muscles his way into the end zone to give the Mountaineers the lead for good, 35-28. Marshall who had a 15-game winning streak in Division I AA last year as the national champions, lose in Division I against arch-rival West Virginia 42-31. Miami and Baylor a year ago, the Canes 5-0 on the road, and they're on the road today against Baylor in Waco. Edgerrin James having an unbelievable season, an unbelievable game, just a sophomore. That one for 24 yards out, 1 of 3 he was to score on the game. Later, the next drive, as a matter of fact, 1st and goal, he does it again. Dave Roberts in his first year with Baylor, his team in trouble, and Dave knows it. Later in the quarter, Miami up 38-14. Dwayne Stearns in the backfield. Watch this punt. He'll break all kinds of tackles and go 87 yards in all. The Canes are for real, it looks like, in 1997, as Miami wins it by a count of 45-14. Edgerrin James on the day, 3 scores and 120 yards. UCLA and Washington State out in the Palouse. Everybody talks about Washington's Damon Heward. How about the Cougars' Ryan Leaf dropping back and finding Nyan Taylor down the left sidelines, 57 yards. Nobody's going to touch him. Cougars up by 16 after the missing, or by 10 after missing the extra point. They led 30-14, and that's when Skip Hicks took over for the Bruins. One of 3 touchdowns, or 4 touchdowns, he was the score of the day. But later, Leaf finds Chris Jackson on the slant pass. He breaks a couple of tackles, makes a couple of nice moves. 78 yards in all. The Cougars leading at that point, 37-21. But more Skip Hicks. UCLA would not go away. He goes wide here, gets into the end zone, his 4th touchdown on the day, but the Bruins still down by 3. 3rd and goal. Chad McNown right there in the corner to Jermaine Lewis. He looks like he's crossed the goal line, but watch, his body touches the ground at the 1. That's where the officials ruled it. So 4th and goal for Bob Toledo and company, but Rook stopped. Big hit at the end zone. Washington hangs on to win it. Lewis Bender there with the stop for the Cougars. They win it by 3, 37-34. Well, down in the Blue Grass State, an in-state rivalry between Kentucky and Louisville, as for a change, basketball took a back seat to football down there. And for the Wildcats, all eyes were on sophomore sensation Tim Couch and their new head coach, Hal Mumme. Couch putting his considerable skills on the line. Watch him here under pressure. He'll dump it off to Anthony White, and White does the rest, finding his way into the end zone. 23 yards. White had 2 touchdowns on the day. That put the Wildcats up 14-0. More Couch in the second half. The short pass here to Keo Sanford. And watch Sanford have some room here. It's nice if you're a quarterback and you got 2 wide receivers who can do a lot of work on the ground with their speedy feet. That put the Cats up 21-17. An 80-yard touchdown there. Kentucky goes on to win it 38-24. And look at the numbers for the young sophomore. 36 for 50, 398 yards, and 4 touchdown passes for Tim Couch of Kentucky. Coming up, 24 new coaches in Division 1A this year. One of them, Mike DuBose of Alabama. His debut as the Tide head coach in a moment.
This halftime report is presented by National Car Rental. You've got places to go. We've got the keys.
Welcome back to the National Car Rental Halftime Report. No shortage of drama on this first big day of college football, Labor Day weekend. First, we go to Starkville, Mississippi. Memphis taking on Jackie Sherrill's Bulldogs of Mississippi State. Less than 3 minutes on the clock in the 4th quarter. Game tied at 10. Mississippi State 1st and 10 on their. Mark Wyatt handing off to Robert Isaac. He cuts right, sneaks through about 2 tackles, a 33-yard gain. Later, it was Isaac again on the same drive, this time for a 14-yard pickup. Jackie Sherrill and his offensive coordinator working the clock for Brian Hazelwood. 7 seconds left, and a career-long 53-yard field goal is good. Mississippi State wins it 13-10. They lead the series 26-10. Elsewhere, in the coaching debut of Mike DuBose, a former defensive coordinator for Alabama, they win in a walk 42-17 over Houston. Houston 0-8 all-time against the Tide. Georgia gets its Stevens started on the right track, a 38-7 win over Arkansas State. The other Mississippi school, Ole Miss, trailing Central Florida early on. That game is now 7-3 in the second quarter in the first meeting between these 2 schools. North Texas and Vandy. Vanderbilt on top of North Texas 6-3. just seconds remaining in the first quarter. Well, Nebraska's 36-game home winning streak in no danger. We'll have a look at how the Huskers are doing against the Mid-American Conference Akron University Zips. All that and more coming up on the National Car Rental Halftime Report. Well, while the Florida Gators are taking on Southern Mississippi, a toughie for them as far as openers are concerned. How about Nebraska, number 6 in the country? Who do they take on? The Akron University Zips in the first meeting ever between Nebraska and a Mid-American Conference team. No problem for QB Scott Frost. Watch him go 26 yards on the keeper here. Nebraska up 7-0. Later, Joel Makovica, the fullback, bursting through for 20 yards. Great bit of power running there to put Nebraska up 14-0. Later in the second quarter, the Huskers up 24-zip when Frost pitches to Amon Green. He runs down the sideline. Nobody's going to touch him. 45 yards in all. The Huskers on top of that point, 39-0, and they go on to win it 59-14. At least Akron did not live up to their nickname, the Zips. Iowa State and Oklahoma State are tied in the second quarter, 7-7 there. So far, Troy Davis's brother, Darren Davis, hasn't done much in the way of carrying the football. Virginia Tech and Rutgers, the Hokies ranked number 25 in the country, looking to make the pollsters stand up and take notice. They did that, 59-19. Al Clark had a big day at quarterback in place of the graduated Jim Druckenmiller. Southwestern Louisiana and Pittsburgh coaching debut for Walt Harris, the former Ohio State offensive coordinator. Pitt wins it 45-13. Colorado State and Nevada. The Rams have never been ranked in the preseason polls until this year. They look good today, beating Nevada by a count of 45-13. Air Force on top of Idaho. This one now a final 14-10. The count there, Blaine Morgan, Bo's brother, had a big day. 10 for 18, 148 3 yards passing. He rushed for 49. And Ball State losing to Miami of Ohio, speaking of the Mid-American Conference, 27-10, the final there. It is halftime in Gainesville. The Gators on top, courtesy of 2 Doug Johnson touchdown passes. 14-zip, back with the second half kickoff in a moment. Major League Baseball not resting on this day of college football. Interleague play, Mets and Orioles, top of the 7. Mets lead 6-5. Light hitting Luis Lopez rips one into the gap. Alec Ochoa and Brian McRae score. Lopez ends up with a double as the Mets pound out 19 hits in a 13-6 win. Bernard Gilkey also had 3 hits, including a 3-run home run. The Braves big over the Red Sox, 15-2 the final there. Giants 7-3 over the Angels. Sean Estes becomes the National League's second 18-game winner. And the Mariners lost to the Dodgers 11-2 the final there. The Dodgers need to win the remaining 2.5 games to stay ahead. Okay. It is halftime down in Gainesville, Florida. But before we get to that, we'll remind you that tomorrow night, Sunday Night Baseball, join us on ESPN at 8:30 Eastern Time, Atlanta versus the Red Sox.
Florida 14-0 at the half, and the Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles, 27.5-point underdogs coming in, refused to go away. Big story coming in. Todd Christensen was the ascendance to the throne of Doug Johnson. Give us your appraisal of the Florida quarterback.
Well, Doug Johnson has certainly had his moments. He's 11 for 20, 149 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I think he's somebody that is going to prove himself over time. But again, this is the first game. They put a lot of responsibility upon him. Here, first off, he's able to hit Jamie Richardson on the corner, a nice touch pass, and that's the first touchdown. But Southern Miss absolutely would not go away. But here is a costly turnover. Sherrod Gideon on the swirl route bounces off his shoulder, and Fred Weary able to make the pick. And that led to the touchdown. The great athletic play by Jaquez Green. First of all, you can see the frustration of the offensive coordinator of Southern Miss. And take a look at the catch here by Green. Going up the ladder, as you mentioned, Charlie, a 39-inch vertical leap. That enabled Florida to be up 2 touchdowns.
And we see why that Doug Johnson is green with envy. First half statistics, Florida has the better of the numbers. And they also have a 14-point lead.
That's the big number right there, though, Charlie. 3 turnovers. Without those 3 turnovers and the yard lines that they ended up on, the 15, the 10, and the 28, they could have conceivably 14, 17, or 21 points.
And here is Florida to kick it off to start the second half. Eric Booth Booth to the 20. Booth down the sideline. Cuts at the 35 and cut down at the 33. Jeff Bowers, the head coach, with Merrill Hodge.
Coach, I know you can't be pleased with the turnovers. What did you tell you guys at halftime?
Well, I mean, you know, you can't dwell on that. We've had it down there 3 times and turned it over 3 times. You're not going to do that and beat the good football teams. We got to make plays down there in the red zone and get points on the board.
You know, I think your defense has played pretty exceptional. You've given the ball up in the short end zones. Any news for them?
Well, you know, I thought we got real soft right before halftime. You know, we had the personal foul after the turnover, which gave them great field position. We got to come back and challenge them. We're as good as they are. We got to challenge them and play with the same intensity defensively that we did early.
All right, thanks, guys.
Merrill with Jeff Bowers is the beginning here of the second half. Moments ago, Harold Shaw with the carry about to the 39-40 yard line. Pick up just a yard or 2.
He is certainly intense, and they have had some missed opportunities, as we pointed out, the fumble and the 2 interceptions. And you can see the yard lines that they were on. The issue here, though, that I like about Coach Jeff Bowers, he didn't come in here and say, well, golly gee whiz, we're just happy to be here and we hope we can put up a competitive game. He said from the outset that he felt his club could win. And I think that attitude has permeated the group. And I think that after the first half, they've got to feel a little bit confident, Charlie. They're certainly not overwhelmed.
2nd and 9 at the 39. Here's Roberts. And he completes it to Sherrod Gideon. And Gideon to the 47-yard line. And that should be enough for a first down. If not, it's just about a yard shy.
Roberts just paid a price, though. Coming from the backside, he gets absolutely pulverized. Take a look, going to come in right here, completely untouched, right in the middle of the back on the safety blitz is Tony George. Great job by Roberts hanging in there, being able to deliver the ball to Gideon.
Gideon, the leading receiver for Southern Mississippi, and we're going to get a measurement here. Gideon with 33 catches for 500 yards last year. And that was a freshman record at Southern Mississippi. Let's take a look now at the measurement. Yay short. So 3rd and less than 1. And the skies are indeed ominous here. We had a lot of rain in the first half. It has stopped for the time being, but it looks as if it is on its way back.
Bunch them in play action. What do you think? Down 14-0, or do you need to get the first down?
Well, it's basically, is it a 2-down situation for them?
No. I'm being theoretical. I'm interested in what you think.
Bust it right up the middle. Let's see. There it is. First down. What are you looking at me like that
sure.
for?
Yeah, I was going to say, take the easy way out.
That's football.
No, you know what? You're absolutely right. And given the circumstances here, they need to not only take some time off the clock, but keep the Florida offense off the field. They need to get a drive, and they need to get confidence that it's going to culminate in some points, because they've had 3 terrific drives, but they've only stopped themselves.
No shortage of confidence in this man, Jeff Bowers, and you and I talked to him on the phone this week. You almost got a sense of maybe he's blowing smoke, but he wasn't.
Nah.
He's the real deal.
Yeah, he reminded me of the fact that he was the quarterback at Southern Miss when they beat BYU in 1975.
1st and 10. Here's Roberts. He is going to be manhandled and thrown for a loss back to the 43-yard line by Willie Rogers.
Very surprising here, too, because they only had 3 men in the pattern, and they were covered. The play-action fake was, take a look, he's going to pump fake a number of times, just not able to get it off. Rogers is the first one there with help from Chester and McGrew.
Ed Chester, as you take a look at Willie Rogers. Chester, number 94, is playing just having had a screw removed from his foot just a couple of weeks ago. Had a screw loose, but not anymore. Gone. 2nd and 15, and too much time. Once again.
No, it's heads up on the part of the tailback. Heads up on the part of the tailback. Harold Shaw as well as Todd Pinkston were able to get the timeout. They both screamed and wanted the timeout. And actually, it's a pretty good decision considering the fact that they don't want to come up 2nd and 20.
As if 2nd and 15 is not bad, no. As you take a look at Ed Chester, he had a broken foot. And did have a screw removed just a couple of weeks ago, and they were wondering what kind of game shape he would be in. Cardiovascular and so on. He hadn't been running much, had very little time in summer practice. There's 94.
There he is right here. He busts through. Of course, the play had been stopped. The one thing about that, though, Charlie, he is a youngster and he's resilient, and you know the endorphins certainly kick in when you have the game.
Back in 1990, Southern Mississippi had a quarterback, a golden-armed quarterback by the name of Brett Favre. Last year, Favre led the Packers to a Super Bowl victory over the New England Patriots. This Monday, the world champion Packers play host to the Chicago Bears on the season premiere of Monday Night Football. This Monday night, 9 Eastern on ABC. Meanwhile, here on ESPN2, third quarter, 14-0 Florida. Southern Mississippi, 2nd and 15 at their own 44. Roberts with time, firing, tip incomplete. It was intended for Eddie Shaw.
Just a little bit out of sync. Eddie Shaw running the same route that Sherrod Gideon ran earlier. Runs the swirl route, lets people clear out, goes in, and then comes back out. Tough catch. Tough catch. A little bit extended there. But because of the sack, you got to feel that Roberts has to hurry things a little bit.
Well, there's Lee Roberts with his crib sheet on his left wrist.
Those numbers are certainly a credit to the Florida defense that, as we mentioned earlier, Charlie, you said is going to be the strength of the team.
Only 14-0 Florida. Here's Roberts over the middle. He threw it behind the intended receiver. And so it will be 4th down.
Charlie, part of the frustration here, you can see Jeff Bauer trying to encourage people and say, hey, there's a long way to go. But part of the frustration in particular is because they had such great field position. They started at the 37-yard line. So to have to go 3 and out after the initial first down, it has got to be painful.
Jack Gabriel to punt it away. Jaquez Green standing back at his own 20-yard line.
Nice
Oh, that's a pretty one. Sending Green back to the 10. Ready? 30 and out at the 32-yard line. A return of 22. It's 14-0 Florida.
ESPN2's presentation of college football is brought to you by Quality Care Service from Ford and Lincoln Mercury dealers, and by Outback Steakhouse. For an Aussie good time over an awesome steak, get to Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
And here comes Florida for their first possession of the second half. Johnson with the handoff to the up-back Terry Jackson, and he gets about 3 yards on the play. 2nd down and 7. Getting off the pile is Robert Brown, number 84, the big defensive end.
One of the things that Southern Miss has to concern itself with, as we see some of the young and very pretty Gator fans, is the fatigue of the defense. On the field, not much of a rest because of the no-huddle situation.
And here's Johnson from the shotgun. Oh, it's intercepted by Marchant Kinney to the 20-yard line.
Charlie, it appeared that it was tipped at the line of scrimmage. They set up the screen. Marchant Kinney makes a great play, but it appears that it was tipped. Someone might have got a piece of that, but Kinney read it well and made a nice catch. Take a look and see this ball, if it alters the trajectory, and see if someone gets a piece of it. Right there, just a little bit there is the blitzing safety. And Kinney is able to make the big turnover for Southern Miss.
And now let's see about this Florida defense. They're going to have to dig in their heels. Here's Roberts back to throw. Throwing, and it is nearly picked off. The intended receiver was the tight end Terry Hardy. Javon Curse, number 42, nearly got the pick. 7-0 Gators. And now let's see what the Eagles can do. Harold Shaw brought down at the line of scrimmage.
That's great.
Mike Harris.
And Harris made a good job of pursuit there because they had the front 7 fooled, but Harris comes up from his safety position and makes the tackle. We were told that Harris was going to come in some nickel situations, and there he was right in the middle to take on the big man. I tell you what, Charlie, sometimes it's really tough when you're cold, not unlike pinch hitting, but the difference is you have to collide with somebody coming off the bench. Harris showed it wasn't a problem for him.
3rd and 10 at the 20. And so the Florida defense. Big play for them. Even bigger for Southern Mississippi in the offense. Incomplete. Intended for Eddie Shaw. It is 4th down. And Jeff Bowers is perturbed. Now, what do you think they're going to do?
Well, here's the situation. They can take them out of field goal range if they have the confidence in their defense, and I'm thinking that that's what they're going to do, and here's why. If they're going to go for it on the 40-yard line as they did in the first half,
well, penalty from the spot of the foul, repeat 3rd down.
Then they have enough confidence in their defense to move them back out of field goal range, trusting that they can't get those, in this case, about 13 yards back.
Quite a vote of confidence for Bob Stoops' defense.
And Jeff Bauer must feel like he's snake bit. The penalties, the 15-yard penalty that he mentioned, and now the holding penalty when they're clearly in field goal range.
They have played gutsy football, but have made too many inopportune mistakes at the wrong time. 3rd and 9. Roberts overthrows Gideon at the 35. It is 4th down. We said at the top of the broadcast that early in the season, it would likely be the defense of the Florida Gators that would drive this train, and that's certainly been the case tonight.
And here's the frustrating part for Southern Miss, and that is that the tip by Adalius Thomas and the interception by Marshawn Kenny now more than likely is going to go for naught. That man right there looks like the Wizard of Oz. He's making all the right calls. Defensive coordinator Bob Stoops of Florida.
He is 36 years old.
The reason they're shouting is because the punter, you can see sprinting on the field now. I guess he didn't know that they were punting. Jack Gabriel was out getting a drink or something.
4th down, and Stoops, or rather Gabriel, punts it in, and there's a flag on the play, and apparently too much time. So it looks as if Southern Mississippi is beginning to come apart at the seams.
Well, you know what? You've got to be paying attention. I don't want to be critical of the young man, but it's 4th down and a long ways to go. You have to be paying attention, see what's happening on the field, because basically 4th down is your down. So I know he's a youngster and everything else.
Foul. The ball was never alive. Delay of game on the offense. 5-yard penalty, 4th down.
But this is actually a benefit because it's a dead ball foul, and it's just a situation to where Florida doesn't get to refuse it. Now he's got an opportunity now to get it inside the 20, because that punt, that last punt was not very good. Gives him an opportunity to redeem himself here.
The series began at the 20. It ends at the 39. Minus 19 on this one. Here's Gabriel to punt it away with Jacques Green standing back at his own 10. It is a high spiral that will bounce into the end zone. So when all is said and done, nothing ventured, nothing gained for Southern Miss. Here's Mike Adamle.
Well, Charlie, in Knoxville, Tennessee, it took about 12 minutes before the faithful got to sing good old Rocky Top. Peyton Manning finally gets loose here, 6 yards to Jermaine Copeland, a former backup quarterback. Bulls lead by 7.
And here the Gators lead by 14. And Jeff Bowers is just a fuming.
I tell you, he's doing a Bobby Knight impersonation. I mean, he has really been letting the officials have it.
Here it's Fred Taylor, and Taylor across the 25 to the 27-yard line. Let's bring in Merrill Hodge down on the field. Merrill.
Yeah, if Florida is to repeat as national champions, they're going to have to play great defense. They've done that tonight. Let's look at what they did last year. They had a turnover in every football game they played, 6 defensive touchdowns. Tonight they already have 3 turnovers, and Southern Miss has not got in the end zone yet.
2nd and 3 for the Gators at the 27. Here is Taylor again, and he's got a first down across the 30 to about the 32-yard line. Latrell Pollard, our friendly mortician, made the tackle. There's Florida defensive.
Fred Taylor does something that only really good backs do, and that's he's able to make a move in the hole. He made the first guy miss and still able to get the yardage. Even though that was only a 4 or 5 yard run, that was a good-looking run by Taylor.
1st and 10 at the 32. Taylor breaks a tackle and ends up still losing a couple of yards on the play. Quincy Scott and Adelius Thomas were in on the tackle.
Too much penetration. When you go with the misdirection, you have to make sure that the backside is covered. In that case, it wasn't.
2nd down and 11 with 9 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. Well, some nervous Gator fans here tonight. Here's Johnson throwing sideline, and it is complete at the 35-yard line to the tight end, Aaron Kinney.
John Thompson, defensive coordinator of Southern Miss, has done an outstanding job this evening trying to vary his fronts and his rushes. And he's been successful to a degree. I'm sure he's frustrated over his team's turnovers. But he has hung in there, and so has his team. His concern, as I mentioned earlier, has to be a little bit of a fatigue factor for Southern Miss because they've been playing a lot of the same people.
3rd down and 5 at the 37. Johnson, 2-step drop. Sideline, incomplete, intended for the high-flying Jaquez Green.
Here's what a young quarterback needs to learn, and that is that you can't just make up your mind pre-snap. Great coverage that time on the part of Terrence Parrish, who just refused to let Jaquez Green get open. He was with him step for step, knew that they were going to go with the short route because earlier that's how he had a 1st down. Take a look here. He's not looking at anybody else. He's going right for Jaquez Green, and you can see in the background bumping and doing what he has to do is Terrence Parrish inside the 5-yard mark. Perfectly legal. Excellent coverage.
Sherrod Gideon awaiting the punt of Robbie Stevenson. It is high and short, and it bounces at the 37 and is touched down at the 36-yard line. The Southern Miss Golden Eagles continue to hover overhead. Jeff Bauer and his Southern Mississippi Golden Eagles save for 3 turnovers. They could be winning this game. They trail 14-0, and they've got the ball back now. 1st and 10 at their own 36-yard line. 85,000 nervous Gator fans here in the swamp. Harold Shaw stacked up for maybe a yard. That middle of the line. Beauchamp and Chester and McGrew and Rogers all in on the play.
This is where Larry Keck once again has to reach into the bag of tricks because up to this point, Southern Miss has 38 plays and only 39 plays rather, and only 114 yards. That's less than 3 yards of play. And I know he's frustrated by that. He is a new offensive coordinator. It's his set. But this is the point here, and from now on, he's got to try some different things.
2nd and 8 at the 36. Here's Roberts throwing. He's got a receiver wide open over the middle. Eddie Shaw's got it, and a 1st down. Now let's go back to Mike Adamle. Michael.
Well, Charlie and Todd, the post-Troy Davis era has begun at Iowa State, but passing appears to be the theme in 1997. Quarterback Todd Banhauser up top, 27 yards to Garrett Bibbins. Cyclones by 7 at half.
7 minutes and counting here, 3rd quarter. Florida's 14-0, and Southern Miss has the ball.
Let me make a point here with regards to running between the tackles. Even though they've struggled, with 6:50 and counting remaining in the 3rd quarter, they still need to do it to keep Florida honest. They just can't bail out.
And they've done just that, and it's a fumble. And Florida's got it.
Tony George appeared to make the recovery, but his safety buddy, the man that made a big tackle on the previous series, Mike Harris, appeared to be the man to make the strip.
Tony George appears to be shaken up, but not nearly as shaken as Jeff Bauer.
I think you're right. Right between the tackles. Booth has it there. Good block. Now he cuts back to the inside, and right there, number 61, Gerard Warren, is the one who strips him of the ball. And once again, Larry Keck shows his frustration.
So it's 1st and 10 for Florida. Doug Johnson in the shotgun. Firing. Did he complete it to Green? No. Short hop. Second down. You know, with Doug Johnson in the shotgun, that is a play that Steve Spurrier has not used around here since 1993. They want to take care of that rifle arm of his. Spurrier and Doug Johnson didn't see eye to eye when summer practice began. Johnson, of course, had spent the last 3 months playing some rookie league baseball. And when he showed up for camp and did some running, he was not nearly in the shape that Spurrier would like to have seen him in. But once he got a look at that arm, there's no doubt about it. Like that pass to Jamie Richardson and a first down.
One of the things that they're doing now, taking advantage of some of the fatigue, is the pass rush has to go that much farther and be that much quicker out of the shotgun. He's got time with the 3-step drop, and he spreads people around the field. There's Richardson on the deep in route, slides down and makes a nice catch to throw just a little bit behind him, but good protection on the part of the front 5 for Florida.
Spurrier was telling us the other day he thinks Johnson's arm is considerably stronger than Wuerrfel, but the X factor, as you like to call it, is not there, at least not yet. On first down, Johnson. Rifle pass to Jacquez Green, and he pays the price and loses a couple of yards in the process. Marshawn Kinney and Patrick Surtain were there, along with Larry Watts, number 13.
Well, nobody ever said that Southern Miss can't tackle now. Patrick Surtain, you mentioned the interceptions, but he also had 84 tackles, so he's not somebody who shies away from contact.
Second down and 11 at the 46. And there's lightning off in the distance once again. With a screen pass, wide open. Terry Jackson cuts at the 40 and cut down at the 38-yard line. Tackled by Perry Phoenix, short of the first down by maybe 3.
What's going to happen here is the blitz comes, and the man who has to cover Jackson is right here in the middle of the field, and he's not going to be able to do it. He's got to run clear across, and that's Kinney. He has to avoid a man here. Ooh, that was a pick, and he got away with it. Good play. Good play on the part of number 9, Darrell Jackson, to come down and pick Kinney.
And we saw a touch pass there from Johnson. And that was one of the criticisms against him with the big, strong arm. He couldn't touch it very well. He did that time. And there's a first down for Fred Taylor. Inside the 35, down to the 33.
But that was a pick, Charlie, and as Raymond Chester used to tell me, if you get away with it, it's a good play. It's normally what's called a shield route, where you run underneath and make the linebacker come up on top. But if you collide with him, that's a different story.
So it's 1st and 10 for the Gators. They've got a sustained drive going here with 4.5 minutes to go. Once again, Fred Taylor. Taylor gets maybe to the 30-yard line, a pickup of 3, 2nd and 7.
Fred Taylor had 11 carries in the first half, and here we are now, almost down to 4 minutes in the third quarter, and I think that's only his 2nd carry of the quarter, isn't it? For some reason, they've opted not to give him the ball, excuse me, up to 16. My apologies. Just didn't seem like it to me.
Well, Terry Jackson has seen a little more running time here in the second half. Last year, Fred Taylor averaged 6 yards per carry, scored 5 touchdowns. 2nd and 7 at the Southern Mississippi 30. And here's referee Steve Shaw.
Sideline warning. That is the 2nd sideline warning for Florida.
That's one that's difficult. You know, you're young people and you're anxious and you want to see what's happening. You get up too close and you cross that white line that only the coaches are supposed to be on, and you see right there, you saw Steve Spurrier kind of wave and say, come on. But that's why they implemented the rule.
2nd and 7 at the 30. And now the whistle blows and play can resume.
As most of you are probably aware, Steve Spurrier is his own offensive coordinator. You can see by the signal.
He's the king of everything in Gainesville. Look at that rifle pass, but it's behind Jacquez Green. The velocity was there. The aim was askew.
Now he comes over and has a conversation. He wants to know, weren't you going to run a hook? Because that's what he threw to, was a hook. But Jacquez went to the outside.
Doug Johnson grew up in Gainesville, Florida. He is a hometown kid. It is now his football team. There has been an enormous amount of pressure put on his shoulders coming into this season. His team leads 14-0, and I imagine there are going to be a lot of questions after this game is over. And here's a pass behind Jamie Richardson at the 15. And so that will be 4th down.
Charlie, you're right about some of the questions, but gee, you know what? Southern Miss has played an outstanding game in the secondary. I mean, these people have been covering. Once again, they go with the blitz, man-for-man coverage, and you would figure how many times we watch Florida, and they burn people with that. Once again, Parrish in excellent coverage, and Phoenix makes sure there's no way you're catching this ball. And, of course, if they're going to go for it on the 40-yard line, 4th down, they'll certainly go for it here.
And not from the shotgun. Richardson in motion. Johnson has time. Fires all wide open to the tight end, Kinney. Kinney to the 10, Kinney to the 5-yard line, and knocked out of bounds at the 3.
Misdirection. That's an outstanding call by that man who has been complimented by everybody. I don't know if genius is too strong, but one of the things that happened here is a play that they have not run at all. Charlie, you mentioned Kinney. Watch, he's going to come just across here. The direction of everything goes that way, but the block by the fullback is what enabled him to get wide open. The inside backer, the strong safety, opted not to go with Kinney, buying into the play-action fake, and the result is a big gain for the Gators.
Kinney with 2 catches tonight. He had 3 all of last year. Pitch out. Jackson stopped short at the 2. So Florida has gone for it on 4th down twice and come up with a 1st down twice.
Marshawn Kennedy coming up from his backer position to make the tackle.
Steve Spurrier. 2nd and about that far away. Maybe 2. Doug Johnson calling the automatic, and he's going to push it in himself for the touchdown.
Charlie, I genuinely think that his turning around and looking like he was confused was an act. What he does is he turns around. People might have remembered a couple of years ago the Jets played the Dolphins, and Marino acted like he didn't know what he was talking about, and he threw that comeback route. He looks back and acts like he doesn't know what he's doing, but he comes up to the center, hits him on the butt, and goes straight ahead. Obviously, Southern Miss wasn't prepared for that. And he's certainly excited, and deservedly so.
And so to make it 21, Collins Cooper. It is 21-0, and you begin to wonder whether the Golden Eagles' egg has scrambled. We'll be back. It looks like it. We are back. 2 minutes, 46 seconds ago, 3rd quarter. Charlie Steiner, Todd Christensen, and Merrill Hodge. From the swamp, Doug Johnson breathing a sigh of relief as he had the touchdown with the quarterback sneak. And now Florida up by 3 touchdowns, and Southern Mississippi appears to be gasping for air. And the kickoff is out of bounds. Robbie Stevenson kicking off for the Gators of Florida.
Good decision by Shaw to let it go, and once again, Southern Miss, pretty good field position. They've been having good kick returns. They've been starting right around the 35 most of the time. They just need to generate some offense.
But they haven't found it to be terribly easy.
Out of bounds. We'll put the ball in play on the 35-yard line.
That is the scoring drive for Florida. And on 4th down, Doug Johnson's pass to the tight end, Kinney. Fooled everybody. 2nd time on 4th down. Florida went for it and got the 1st down, and then the quarterback sneak to make it 21-0. Harold Shaw, the single setback. That's all they employ for Southern Mississippi, is a 1-back offense. That's Brendan Francis in motion. Roberts passing, and it is complete. to Francis, and he is wrestled out of bounds, and there is no gain at all. Now Florida was able to get to 21-0 on 4th down and long.
Well, of course, the big throw was to Aaron Kinney, but take a look at this play by Bo Carroll, who comes out and makes an outstanding block on the blitzing linebacker, in this case, Brian Bell. That enables Kinney to be wide open, catch the pass, and get down within the scoring situation. And then, of course, later, you can see able to plow in is Doug Johnson for his own touchdowns. And, of course, Charlie, they always have that statistic for touchdowns responsible for. So Doug Johnson's got 3 of those tonight.
And here is Roberts throwing over the middle, and it is complete. Brandon Francis did a great job of maintaining his concentration. Florida thinks it's got the ball. Francis is down and getting up slowly.
Well, when all of your concentration is on the ball and you're in the middle of the field, you know you're going to take a lick. He wouldn't have had to take that lick if he'd have had it on the first catch, but as you pointed out, it bounced up, and he had to focus on it. Take a look here. If he makes on the first catch, he does a little circle right out of the backfield, he's okay. But right there, it bounces up, and as soon as he has to concentrate, he gets pulverized by Rutledge.
At the other end of the play, Lee Roberts gets pounded too.
Florida's been doing that all night. Bob Stoops has done an outstanding job mixing up his coverages and his blitzes.
1st and 10 at the 50. Shaw inside the 50, down to about the 47. Flag on the play. Well, the wheels are coming undone now, aren't they?
Well, Jeff Bauer just has to wonder why. All of these situations, the turnovers, the penalties, everything is just not going his way. I mean, you don't want to dwell on the Murphy's Law theory, but certainly for Southern Miss, they have to feel snake bit.
And Steve Spurrier, 21-0. He kept saying all along this is going to be a tough opening night game for him. He had won his previous 7 openers by a composite score of 358 to 116. And Roberts is snowed under again by Keith Kelsey. And isn't he having a whale of a game tonight?
Keith Kelsey comes on a blitz from the inside, and there's Bob Stoops, the engineer of what's happening for this defensive group of Florida.
Stoops is a name who's being mentioned a lot for potential head coaching jobs.
You can see the double team on the nose tackle. In this case, McGrew enables Kelsey to get open. And sometimes that's underrated, Charlie. You have the people up front that are drawing the blocks, enabling the blitzing linebackers to make the play. That's what happened there. McGrew, excellent job.
2nd and 26. And Shaw gets nothing. Once again, Ed Chester. They didn't think he was going to play this deep into the game. They weren't even sure he was going to play at all. And he comes up big again as we have come to the end of the 3rd quarter. The Florida Gators now firmly in control, 21-0 as we head to the final 15. First play, 4th quarter, Florida 21-0, and Southern Miss in the world of hurt. 3rd and 25 at their own 35. Roberts, screen pass to Eddie Shaw, and Eddie Shaw is snowed under at the 35-yard line. When all that hopscotching was done, no gain on the play. Tony George, a strong safety, made the tackle. Through 3 quarters of play,
I think one of the things that stands out there besides the turnovers is total yards. Through 3 quarters of play, 143 total yards. In this day and age where so many things are shaded for the offense, you know, rules-wise and everything else, trying to create those big numbers offensively, it's impressive to see a defense that's held another team to 143 yards. Shaken up in the play is number 13, Mike Harris.
He's okay.
Made some big plays, but he's going to be all right.
But it was interesting in looking at those numbers again. It tells the story of a brilliant defense of Bob Stoops, and it shows also a sluggish offense, first time out for Doug Johnson. 270-something yards. That's most un-Spurrier-like.
Oh, no, there's no doubt that Southern Miss has played great defense.
And so on 4th and 25. Green has to retreat all the way to the 11th. Flag on the play. Green, another flag on the play. Green, a third flag on the play. And a late hit to boot.
A couple of clips and holes thrown in there, but that was a great punt by Gabriel.
54 yards. Let's see which flag counts or doesn't, or if we're just going to do it again. The conference continues at the 35-yard line. The referee is Steve Shaw. My penalty's bigger than your penalty. And Jeff Bauer can only wonder what might have been tonight. There's Steve Spurrier.
We have 2 fouls on the return team. We have illegal block in the back during the kick. And then we have a hold during the return. We will penalize from the post-scrimmage kick enforcement spot into the kick, half the distance to the goal, first down.
3 flags, all of them against Florida.
Chuck Green, you had your pick right there. Evidently, that's the clip that they called on number 4, Marquand Manuel. That's the one that they opted for because that put them in worse field position there at the 6.
It is 1st and 10. Doug Johnson has received every snap from center tonight. Eugene McCaslin now in the backfield. And he gets his first carry. McCaslin, with a nice second effort, picks up about 3 yards on the play.
You know, you mentioned Doug Johnson. One of the things that's going to happen is, I'm guessing here, is that, you know, he's thrown 2 interceptions. Everybody talked about the possibility of his getting jerked or his getting yanked, and that hasn't happened. I think that you made a very cogent point that he's taken every snap. And I think that Steve Spurrier, or the offensive staff in general, certainly wants to undermine his confidence this early in the season.
McCaslin again to the 14-yard line. There was some talk that he would take a rest in the latter stages of the first half, but Spurrier said, no thanks, not tonight.
Well, once again, you want your quarterback to know that it's his team, that we have confidence in you, and particularly since he's a youngster, only a sophomore, and as we pointed out, had only thrown 27 passes in his entire career coming into this evening. Steve Spurrier knows a little something about quarterbacks, not just the X's and O's, but the psychology of it.
3rd and 2. Here's McCaslin. And I think he is a bit short. Depends. Oh, we have a knee injury. Reggie McGrew. Oh, that's big trouble. That is big trouble because the defensive line, which has played so well for Florida tonight, is anchored by those 2 guys in the middle, Chester and McGrew. Merrill Hodge, what do you know?
Guys, Reggie McGrew's heading to the locker room. He's not going to play anymore tonight. He's going to be evaluated after the football game.
All righty. The right knee in one of those instant casts. Well, he got the first down. 12:38 to go in the 4th quarter. Florida leading by 3 touchdowns. Eugene McCaslin continues to be the single setback. And Rod Frazier is the up back. That is Tommy's little brother. Here's McCaslin with a big hole. Quickly sealed by Perry Phoenix. The free safety came up and made a terrific tackle.
Perry Phoenix last year with 3 interceptions, and he too was one of 3 members of the Southern Miss defense with over 100 tackles. We've seen him involved. He certainly has a nose for the football. He's going to make a lot of big plays this year for the Golden Eagles.
It is 2nd down and 6 for the Gators as the clock continues to run. 12 minutes to go in the ball game. Johnson, the handoff is for little Bo Carroll. And Carroll is across the 25 to the 28. And there's a flag on the play. Jose Gonzalez and Ty Trahan combined to make the tackle. Let's see what the flag's all about. Against Florida. They're making a lot of mistakes now, too.
Here the wide receiver was holding. Bo Carroll is one of the young freshmen that Steve Spurrier has opted to break in. He said he's an exciting player, somebody that can make things happen.
5'9", 170 pounds from Morristown, Pennsylvania.
Holding on the offense. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. Repeat second down.
Getting a little sloppy out there now.
And it's interesting to me at this point, Charlie, that up 21-0, that, you know, they leave Doug Johnson in the game, but they don't have their first string backs.
But the wideouts remain. Green and Richardson and McGriff.
But they've run the ball 4 straight times, which would seem to indicate they want to go with ball control. And you would think that's where your starting runners are. It just shows the confidence that Steve Spurrier has in these youngsters.
And here's Bo Carroll again. And you see how quick he is out to the 29-yard line. That's good for a first down. Bo Carroll ran a 10.5 100-meter dash in high school in Pennsylvania.
Excellent speed. Gets to the outside. If Jamal Alexander isn't able to collar him, he's going to go a lot longer than that. Good quickness, good center of gravity.
170 pounds, 5'9". Go look at him, eye to eye. First and 10 at the 29. Again, Carroll, the single setback. This time Johnson is back to throw, throwing over the middle, and he's got Bo Carroll. And Carroll down to the 42-yard line. Deshaun Mallard made the tackle, a pickup of 29 yards on the play.
One of the things you don't see very often anymore in most offenses is a 7-step drop. Doug Johnson takes a very deep drop, but he's got plenty of protection. It appeared that people were thinking that it might have been a screen. He does a great job looking off the free safety and getting it out to Bo Carroll on the swing route. Good open field tackle on the part of Deshaun Mallard, but the damage had already been done.
Norristown, PA. First and 10 at the 42, and here's Carroll again. Let's go downstairs. Merrill Hodge. Merrill?
You know, there have been a lot of great players to play here at the University of Florida, but number 7, Danny Wuerrfel, is the only player to have his jersey painted on the wall here at the Swamp. Now, one other jersey was supposed to be painted to the right, that of Steve Spurrier, number 11. When Coach Spurrier found out that was going to be taking place, he had it taken down. The simple reasoning was this. Yes, they both won the Heisman Trophy, but Steve Spurrier never won an SEC championship or national title. So, Charlie and Todd, I think the standard's set. You must win a Heisman Trophy, a SEC championship, many of those, and a national title.
Lucky numbers 7 and 11. Doug Johnson's pass is complete to Aaron Kennedy, and that is a first down, but there is a flag on the play back at the 39. Aaron Kinney, 3 catches all of last year, 3 catches tonight. We'll see if this one holds.
It appears that it's not going to, but you're right. The very thing that's been very effective for them has been that crossing route. And what happens is, because Southern Miss oft times will go into their blitz packages, that means that a linebacker has to cover the tight end man for man. Now, in some cases, it's not a mismatch, but certainly on 2 of the plays that we've noticed tonight, it has been, but in Florida's advantage.
So Aaron Kinney, 6'6", 267.
See where the holding is in the middle. You can see he's able to avoid the middle linebacker, but it appeared that the right guard is the one that was ruled with the infraction.
2nd and 22 from the shotgun. Bo Carroll can't hang on to it. Incomplete.
One you'll appreciate, Charlie, ever since Charlie Smith, back in the 1968 playoffs, every time you see that now, a pass that's thrown and it's dropped, everybody sprints for it and tries to recover it. Because that was the year that if he recovers that ball, who knows, the Jets don't win Super Bowl III. But now every time you see that ball happen, you don't know whether it's a run or pass, and the defender's always heads up enough to try and cover it. But that one certainly was forward.
The Jets would have won Super Bowl III regardless.
I'm just saying, I think the Oakland Raiders might have won that game. They're up 24-20 at the time.
Once a Raider, always a Raider. Here's Johnson firing and intercepted by Patrick Surtain. And he's got some room down the sideline. Surtain to the 20 and knocked out of bounds at about the 13-yard line by Bo Carroll. And I think you did. Nope, who was that? One of the offensive linemen.
Boy, Bruce, we ought got to talk a little bit about Southern Miss's defense. I mean, we've really hyped up Florida's defense for Southern.
Patrick Surtain is able to get his second pick, and it's a byproduct of just a big-time overthrow. See him make the catch here, and he does pick up some friends. You can see he heads down the sidelines, and heading out front is Adelius Thomas, and he's also going to pick up a block, which he did from Deshaun Mallard. Almost able to go the distance. I'm surprised right there they didn't get the late call, but now they're down to the 13-yard line in business, 9.5 minutes left. They need to get this one in the end zone.
Surtain with 6 picks last year, 2 already tonight. The 3rd interception off Johnson on the evening. And now here's Southern Mississippi. 1st and goal on the 13, and Bob Stoops' defense is going to be tested again. Roberts throwing, end zone, touchdown.
Beautiful.
Pinkston.
Beautiful corner route by Pinkston. He just turns Tony George around. And in fairness to Tony George, he's a strong safety. But they spread out with the 3 wide receivers, and he had to go man on Pinkston, and Pinkston turns him around. And a nice-looking throw on the part of Roberts. Take a look at Roberts. He looks at the free safety first, comes out to the left, and Pinkston with a nice corner route. Nice catch. Gets both feet down. Touchdown.
And he was wide open. And now for the extra point, Tim Hardaway. And it's loose way back at the 30. Hardaway sits on it. So it's 21-6 with 9:24 to go, 4th quarter. Gators get the ball back after the Pinkston touchdown.
ESPN2's presentation of college football is brought to you by America Online. So easy to use, no wonder it's #1. And by Nike, who encourages you to participate in the lives of America's youth.
Trailing 21-6, 9:24 to go in the game. You wonder if Southern Mississippi is going to go for the onside kick.
Well, certainly Florida's not prepared for it. They only have 5 people up, but evidently they have confidence in their defense because they're kicking it away.
And kicking it into the end zone for a touchback. Let's go to Mike Adamle for an update. Mike?
All right, Charlie and Todd in Big 12 play. After a 31-yard touchdown run by Nathan Simmons, Oklahoma State ties the game on this 4-yard option run by quarterback Tony Lindsay, completing a 14-play, 80-yard drive. It's tied at 14.
And here it's 21-6, Southern Mississippi. In the Steve Spurrier era, he has never lost to an unranked team. 45-0. And he is 9 minutes and 16 seconds away from making it 46-0. 21-6.
Now he has his starting backfield back.
And that is Fred Taylor. As he gets across the 25 to about the 27. A pickup of 7. That's going to eat up some clock.
Well, Taylor, as we noted, had 70 yards in the first half, but he's been a non-factor here in the second half. As you pointed out, Charlie, Florida opting for some other people to participate. And now, because, as you mentioned, they want to bleed the clock, they're no longer going with the no huddle. Taylor with 17 carries now for 95 yards.
2nd and 3. Taylor, the single setback. Actually, there's Terry Jackson. And Jackson opens up a hole for Taylor, and Taylor's got a first down. Talking about the success of Steve Spurrier, especially on opening night, he's never lost. And he has generally beaten the daylights out of his opponents. Not so tonight. The Golden Eagles of Southern Mississippi have played his team tough.
Yeah, that averages out to about 51-17 per game. And you just can't give enough credit to Jeff Bauer and his group. They came in here and they've played them even though the yardage doesn't indicate it's 21-6. They're going to be saying for a couple of days what if with regards to those turnovers.
And Bauer plays 7 of 11 games on the road, be playing at Alabama and Tennessee beside this game here tonight against Florida. And there's a very good reason for it. We'll tell you about it in a second. And there's a flag on the play. The reason they go 7 of 11 on the road is essentially they need the money. They are going to get a lot of money to come and play at Florida and at Tennessee and Alabama. He was saying the other day that he'll get more money.
False start on the offense.
Upwards of $500,000 when he goes to Alabama. and that'll be more money than they'll make at their 4 home games in Hattiesburg. Fred Taylor tonight, over 100 yards.
Well, you mentioned the fact that this could turn into the fun and run, which it hasn't been necessarily, but that once again is an impressive graphic. 36-1 when a back rushes for over 100 yards.
1st and 15 at the 28. And there's Taylor again. And with the second effort, gets about 2 more yards on the play. And so Jeff Bauer, the budget for his entire football program is roughly equal to the salary of Steve Spurrier. So this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with slide rules and adding machines against Pentium processors.
And I'm very impressed with the job that Jeff Bauer has done. You know what? It's not just simply preparing your team or X's and O's. It's the particular psychology that you have to be tough, as you pointed out, if you got to go 7 times on the road. And one thing that I need to point out here, too, John Thompson, I think, has done an outstanding job as defensive coordinator with Southern Miss tonight. You can see the remaining road schedule for Southern Miss.
We'll see him again next week, you and I, at Illinois.
East Carolina is no easy game, and of course you pointed out Tennessee and Alabama. The reason I mentioned defensive coordinator John Thompson is in the middle of the 3rd quarter I was talking about the fatigue factor for Southern Miss, but they have really held up.
They really have, and it's been a hot, steamy night here. Perry Jackson spins and loses about 4 yards on the play.
Charlie, at this point Southern Miss also has to think about the possibility of taking a timeout. They have 2 timeouts left. And obviously here on 3rd down, they might not want to do that, but they need to get the ball back and score. And then they might have to think about the idea of stopping the clock with Florida, having the ball and not allowing them just to bleed the clock here.
That's John Thompson exhorting his troops. 3rd down and 18 for Florida, back at the 24. 6 minutes and 55 seconds left. Bo Carroll now in the backfield, and Bo Carroll scampers. And there's another flag on the play. We're seeing a lot more flags as the fatigue factor is really beginning to set in.
But here's a situation where Southern Miss needs to refuse it because they want the ball back. They do not want to give them another opportunity to bleed off between 35 to 60 seconds. They need to refuse the penalty and get their people on the field.
We have holding on the offense, face mask on the defense. We're going to replay the down, 3rd down.
Well, that's unfortunate. That face says a lot, doesn't it?
It's been a long night. There's Steve Spurrier talking to Eugene McCaslin. Sending him in. And Bo Carroll is going to come out. 6.5 minutes to go. McCaslin is the setback. Johnson has a lot of time throwing, overthrowing. Oh, it's nearly picked off. Deshaun Mallard had it in his hands, and he had a wide open pipeline headed toward the end zone.
Charlie, one of the things that happens when you're a defensive back is you make the break with the intention of getting the hit, and that's what he did. Then at the last minute, he saw the ball was going to go over the top, and he couldn't get his hands up to make the catch. Johnson once again with a big overthrow. Mallard with a golden opportunity. Just couldn't do it.
And so on 4th down, Robbie Stevenson will punt it away, and Sharon Gideon standing back at his own 38. Nice punt. Gideon at the 35. Gideon with the giddy up to the 47. Time running out on Southern Mississippi. They got a long way to go with 6 minutes left. Well, the Golden Eagles now are going to have to get down to business. They trail by 21-6, 15 points. And remember, they were 28-point underdogs coming in. Jeff Bauer's team has played Steve Spurrier's team real tight tonight. And it's 1st and 10 from Southern Mississippi at the 42, their own 42. Roberts pump fake, throwing down the sideline. And it is nearly picked off. There was a harmonic convergence of Fred Weary and Tico Brown.
Well, Tico Brown has been doing an outstanding job in center field for the Gators. Remember earlier he made a similar play. He's the one that made the interception. You're going to see right here, Tico Brown right here. Good anticipation. plays the ball all the way. In fact, almost makes the catch, but Fred Weary and Baker club him.
Tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern, ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. The Braves return to Boston. Kenny Lofton, Chipper Jones, Mo Vaughn, and Nomar Garcia-Parra, whose 30-game hitting streak came to an end today. It's the Sunday Night Game of the Week tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern. John Miller, Joe Morgan.
I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and say I think he's going to be Rookie of the Year.
There's nobody else in the American League this year. Boy, he has had just a spectacular season. 2nd and 10 at the 42. That's Hardy, the tight end, in motion. Roberts fires, and it's complete to Eddie Shaw. And Shaw has shown us an awful lot tonight. Down to the 41-yard line, and that's good for a first down, but the clock continues to run.
And that's probably been their most effective pass play on 3 different occasions now. Shaw has been able to run the 12 to 14-yard hook and get open in the middle of the field, and Roberts has been able to deliver.
The clock stops as they move the chains. Eddie Shaw, 6 carries, 51 yards. Pickup of 12 on that play. Roberts isn't checking his watch, he's checking a play.
But this is where Roberts needs to expedite the process, because as they're moving the chains, he needs to be up the field doing what he can as quickly as he can.
Ready for this snap. That's Shaw in motion again. Here's Roberts throwing, and that's Shaw again. He is brought down at about the 38-yard line. A pickup of 3, 2nd and 7. And now the clock continues.
But when they talk about 2-minute offense, that's just a generic term. There are some times where you have to pick it up and do it maybe a little bit earlier than you would like. Certainly Roberts is trying to be in a hurry. But now at the clock under 5 minutes, or close to it, it's getting harder, as you mentioned.
2nd and 7. Southern Miss having little margin of error anymore. 3rd down now.
Try to get Booth out in the flat, had a miniature screen set up. But you know what, Charlie, at this point, sometimes the 3- and 4-yard gains, you just assume not have.
Yeah.
You'd rather have it be incomplete because now the clock stops. And they're in 4-down territory anyway. So they got 2 more plays here to get the 7 to 8 yards.
They have 0 margin of error. But I'll tell you what, Southern Mississippi came in here with everything against them.
Spread them out and run a draw. They got to be thinking throw.
Shaw in motion, Roberts to throw, and it is nearly picked. It is 4th down.
Good coverage on the part of Fred Weary. The ball was overthrown, but he was right with the receiver, stride for stride.
Gideon, the intended receiver. Fred Weary's played very well tonight.
He has, because we haven't called Gideon's name very often, with the exception of punt returns.
That's a telltale sign, isn't it? And Weary is a Thorpe candidate.
One of the things that's difficult is when you have a name corner like that. When you have a name corner like Weary, more than likely people are not going to throw his way. So he may have less interceptions than last year, but actually have played better.
4th down and 7. And everybody in the building is standing. And the only one down is Lee Roberts. And I think there may be an injury on the play to Tony George. We'll check on it when we come back. 21-6, Florida. ESPN continues its college football coverage next Saturday at 12:30 Eastern when the East Carolina Pirates take on the 1996 Big East Rookie of the Year Amos Zaraway and the West Virginia Mountaineers on ESPN, your home of college football. Meanwhile, Tony George, who was injured on the what may turn out to be the final offensive play of the night for Southern Mississippi, is still down.
Well, Tony George is going to come in and he's going to collide. His thigh is going to collide with the helmet right here of Peterson. Watch his head and the collision right here with his thigh. So what that, I'm not a doctor, but I've had that happen to me before. He could have a hyperflex knee, or it could be a contusion on his thigh.
Well, he's getting up.
But it was Thaddeus Bullard that made the sack.
Thaddeus Bullard, who made the sack, number 11. We'll tell you his story when we come back. 4:33 left in the game. Tony George on the sidelines. He was helped off the field. And his knee came out of the short end of a collision with the helmet of Mike Peterson. But meanwhile, Florida's got the ball. 15-point lead and 4.5 minutes to kill off. And that's Eugene McCaslin. He's a 50. Now to Mike Adamle back in the studio. Mike.
All right, Charlie, in Knoxville, Tennessee, after Peerless Price dropped the pass while wide open, Peyton Manning went up top to Marcus Nash for 23 yards and a touchdown. And then moments later, Manning and Nash hook up again down to the one. They scored a play later. 2 Tennessee touchdowns in the span of 28 seconds.
Looks like they're heading for a happy ending at Peyton's place tonight. And Terry Jackson into Southern Mississippi territory. And the clock continues to run. 3:40 and counting.
Jackson getting his opportunity here late in the fourth quarter. But the defense for Florida has really been the star this evening.
And the handoff again. This time Terry Jackson. 21-6 Florida. 3:15 to go. There's a flag on the play. As soon as we're done, happy hour will be coming your way. Getting ready for the big race down at Darlington. And you are joining us at the Swamp, Florida Field, Gainesville, Florida. Charlie Steiner, along with Todd Christensen and Merrill Hodge, in a low-scoring game.
10-yard penalty, repeat third down.
And Florida has been making a lot of mental errors late in the game.
Very surprising at this point. Florida has barely 350 yards total offense. Now I say barely because that Steve Spurrier is the man who is famous for both having Duke and Florida have teams throughout the year that had averaged over 500 yards total offense.
And on their previous 7 opening games, they've averaged 51 points per game. Really, tonight, 21.
Charlie, it may sound redundant, but you got to give a lot of kudos to the Southern Miss defense. They have played an outstanding football game.
And here's Florida calling timeout. And we're going to take a break and come back with 3:05 left. Two minutes, 48 seconds to go, fourth quarter. The Florida Gators, the defending national champions, 21-6, an embarrassment of riches here over the years, and so I suspect there are going to be some nervous Gator fans at the end of the night. Jaquez Green with the end around, and he doesn't get much, just a couple.
Charlie, some interesting numbers here to augment what we were talking about Southern Miss defensively as they're going to take a timeout. In the second half, Johnson has been 6 for 14, 82 yards and 1 interception. And Jaquez Green, 1 catch, -2 yards.
That brings us to our players of the game. And how often do you see a couple of defensive backs as players of the game?
Well, certainly they're deserving. Patrick Surtain with the 2 interceptions and great coverage all evening. Fred Weary with the 1 pick, but it was absolutely huge because it set up that second touchdown. But at this point is the margin of victory. And not only that, Fred Weary has been outstanding in coverage all night long.
We expected to mention the name Sherrod Gideon a lot. And Mr. Weary made Mr. Gideon weary. And so on 4th and 7, they're going to punt it away. And Sherrod Gideon, the only time we've been mentioning his name is when he's been standing deep in punt formation. Robbie Stevenson will punt it. That's a look at Sherrod Gideon. We'll have a look at him again next week. Southern Mississippi traveling to Illinois. Todd and I will be there.
Ron Turner, head coach of Illinois, left the Chicago Bears for the head coaching opportunity. Brother of Norv Turner, head coach of the Washington Redskins.
Well, the Illini have nowhere to go but up. Stevenson with the left shoe. Gideon's going to let it bounce, and he's going to pick it up. Well, he turned the corner, didn't he? Gideon still on his feet and finally brought down from behind at the 31-yard line. ESPN starts your college football weekend off Every Thursday night, this Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, quarterback Dwayne Craig leads the Auburn Tigers into Charlottesville to take on the Virginia Cavaliers with 17 starters returning. Teams are looking to build on last year's 8-4 record. Coverage begins with the weekend kickoff show, 7:30 Eastern Time this Thursday night.
And I'm thinking that Damian Craig might be an all-conference quarterback, except he has to be in the same conference with whoever the Florida quarterback is and Peyton Manning. He's a good
is that all? Yeah.
Yeah.
2:22 left, and here is Southern Mississippi. First and 10 at their own 31. There's some motion on the offensive line, and there are flags a-flying.
Well, the anticipation was that they thought that the tight end was going to go in motion, but instead he was just going to the other side of the field, which he certainly can do.
So the flag again against Florida.
Offsides on the defense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Steve Spurrier cannot be happy with the volume of penalties tonight.
And a lot of mental mistakes, but then again, I think he's also cognizant of the fact that this is the first game. Does have the new quarterback, but I know one thing's for sure. He's grateful for Bob Stoops and that defense.
Here's Roberts. The pass is incomplete, intended to Tyrone Boulware. As soon as our game is done, we will take you to the NASCAR Happy Hour from Darlington, South Carolina. That's as soon as this game is over in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. NASCAR fans, don't stray too far. It has been a steamy night here in the swamp. We had a thunderstorm in the first half. It just made it a little steamier. Game time temperature was 90 degrees, but the players have held up well in occasionally trying conditions. Here's the pass, and in and out of the hands. Kevin Hurd.
Got to be frustrating for Roberts because he's had to withstand this pass rush all night long, and then when the ball's going in and out of the hands of the receivers, it's that much more frustrating. I suppose the theory is, though, that you'll learn from this.
That's the theory.
Tough lesson though.
Well, that's a Southern Mississippi fan making the trek from Hattiesburg. Here's Roberts. He's in a world of hurt. Brought down by Gerard Warren, a freshman. They call him big money. At least they did in high school. Now that he's arrived here, he says, I feel like small change. But they think the world of this freshman. 6'4", 294. Fifth sack of the night.
They certainly do, because he comes around on the loop and is able to get to Roberts. That's some quickness right there. It's not just a matter of being a big body. And the fact that he's playing as a freshman is quite an honor, particularly in light of the fact that Florida had 7 defensive starters returning.
And Spurrier is not a proponent of playing a lot of freshmen. On 4th and 12, they'll punt it away. Jack Gabriel standing back at his own 14-yard line. Jacquez Green, fair catch at the 35, and we've got 1 minute and 17 left.
Charlie, you mentioned some of the problems with Florida at this point. Doug Johnson has thrown 3 interceptions, and they also have 12 penalties. So that's something that needs to be rectified over the next couple of weeks by Steve Spurrier and his staff, especially as they enter the SEC season.
About the only rave reviews I think you can give to Florida tonight, the defense. And thankfully, that was something we were selling pretty big in the beginning of the program.
One of the advantages Florida does have, though, is that after their game next week against Central Michigan, I believe, they have 2 weeks to prepare for Tennessee.
And won't that be fun around here? And let's get some final thoughts now from Merrill Hodge down on the field. Merrill?
Charlie and Todd, I like you. I think Florida's defense played outstanding, but I was truly impressed with Southern Mississippi's defense. I think they played outstanding tonight. They played tough from the very beginning, and they've continued to play tough. I think that they have a lot of things to hang their head as far as high. I know when you go in, you win as a team, you lose as a team, but I think that the mode will probably be a little different in the offensive meetings versus the defensive meetings for Southern Miss.
You are looking at John Thompson, the defensive coordinator for Southern Mississippi. And now we have a change at quarterback, Noah Brindike. And he hands it to McCaslin, and he fumbles the ball with a half a minute left. does not get out of bounds. The clock continues to run, so Noah Brandeis gets one snap, and probably that will be all.
You know, I have to agree with Maryland. One of the things that's going to happen in the defensive meetings for Southern Mississippi is they're going to be able to say, hey, fellas, we held the defending national champions to 21 points with 4 turnovers on our side.
Brandeis with 5 seconds. He wants to get one more snap. He's got the hurry-up offense now. 2-1, and he hands it off to McCaslin, and that is game, set, and match. We mentioned the Florida defense tonight. They gave up about 157 yards. So Florida wins it by a score of 21-6. Coming up next, NASCAR's Happy Hour from Darlington, South Carolina. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. And so for Todd Christensen and Merrill Hodge, Charlie Steiner saying goodbye from the swamp. And the Gators have begun the defense of their national title.